The House will come to order. Members, our prayer today will be given by Billy Coleman. He is the pastor of Cornerstone First Global Methodist Church, and is a guest of Representative Oliver.
It's great to be with you today. It's been a real blessing to meet a lot of you. Let's bow our heads. Dear Father God, we give you praise and glory for living in such a wonderful country, in such a great state as Alabama, and it's so blessed just to be a part of the leadership of this state as they make decisions that makes a difference in people's lives. I lift them up to you, and I praise for your special blessing with them, that we would all be blessed with a spirit of a servant, and that the things that we would do in our life would make a difference to all of those around us, that we would be blessed with a spirit of listening, that we listen and take active part in what our friends are speaking about and what the people in this great room are speaking about, so that great decisions can be made. And Father, help us to live out that scripture in the Bible where you say, consider others as better than yourself. May that kind of humility be blessed so that the decisions made in this room will be life-changing for the people of this great state. Thank you for loving us enough that you sent your son Jesus to die for us on the cross, and may we be servants of yours through him in everything we do. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Members, today's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Ethan Woodall. He attends Fort Payne High School and is paging for my office today.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll.
Mr. Speaker, Albright, Baker, Barnes, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracy, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Crow, Daniels, Datcher, Drummond, DuBose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Hulk, Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lands, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Myricks, Nelson, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Ross, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrells, Stodhagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Tradaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Whitt, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood R., Yarborough.
'78 members advance the roll. Quorum is present. The House is ready to transact business. The chair recognizes hold on a minute, Joe, 1 minute. The chair recognizes Representative Sellers for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this morning, we received call that Reverend Jesse Jackson passed this morning. And he was a civil rights icon, a preacher, a true warrior, a true leader. His last visit to Alabama, and especially to Birmingham, we were able to be with him, and he was able to hold Malin. And the question that he asked, who baby did Patrick steal? Even though he was having his health issues, he was still able to mumble those words. And so we paused for a moment to reflect and to remember his life, his legacy from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, absent members are excused. The chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 12th Legislative Day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 12th legislative day be dispensed with.
Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, I have some announcements. Today, the HBCU Cares Advocacy Day and legislative reception is 5 p.m. at the Nest at ASU. Big I, Alabama Independent Insurance Agency's legislative reception is from 5 to 8 at RSA Plaza Terrace. Wednesday, tomorrow, 18th, Music Therapy State Task Force Advocacy Day from 8:30 to 4 in room 602. The Alabama Beverage Association Innovation Showcase and legislative reception will be from 5 to 7 at the Archives Building. The Association of Alabama Tax Administrators will be a legislative reception from 5 to 7 at the Alabama Association of Realtors. On Thursday, the ALCAP Prayer Breakfast is from 7 to 8 at RSA Plaza Terrace. Troy University Legislative Breakfast, 8 to 9, room 418 on Thursday. Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library event from 8 to 10 on the 6th floor. Legislative Prayer Caucus, 8:30 a.m. in room 206. And the National Federation of the Blind of Alabama Advocacy Day at 8:30 in room 200. And this Thursday, the artist painting a rendering of our final session in this building will be here at 9 a.m. sharp for a group photograph in the House chamber. We need every member in the chamber on Thursday at 9 a.m. sharp, looking your best, Margie. Thank you for your cooperation with this as we just try to document this historical time. And Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, that we leave the journal open to allow the clerk to complete his paperwork and that we reconvene on Thursday, February the 19th at 9:30 a.m.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails. Clerk has now received reports of standing committees to receive those reports throughout today. The House is now in position to introduce bills and resolutions.
House Joint Resolution number 116 by Representative Jackson celebrating the life of Joseph William Jones, Jr. Senate Joint Resolution number 38 by Senator Elliott celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Baldwin County Fair. Senate Joint Resolution number 39 by Senator Bell mourning the death and celebrating the life and legacy of Clifford Ray Miller. Senate Joint Resolution number 40 by Senator Shelnut celebrating the 150th anniversary of Gartendale First Baptist Church. Senate Joint Resolution number 41 by Senator Allen mourning the death and celebrating the life of Eddie Conyers.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 102 by Representative England, commending Alicia Cannon on 50 years of service to the state of Alabama and the Alabama judicial system.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 109 by Representative Rigsby, commending former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mac McCutcheon, on his many years of service to the state of Alabama on the occasion of his retirement from public service.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 110 by Representative Hollis, celebrating Tuskegee University Legislative Day on February 11th, 2026.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 112 by Representative Warren, recognizing the black pioneers of Macon County.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 35 by Senator Wagner, commending William Riley Hawkins Jr. on his retirement from the AARP of Alabama.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 36 by Senator Barfoot, urging the Alabama congressional delegation to provide federal funds for the State Lodging Efficiency Grant Fund.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 37 by Senator Barfoot, recognizing Montgomery County Sheriff Derek Cunningham for being named the 2026 Sheriff of the Year.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk now will call the first uncontested local bill on the regular calendar.
On page 60 of the calendar, House Bill number 408 by Representative Bedsole, relating to Shelby County.
Question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 58 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of HB 408. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 16 ayes, 0 nays. HB 408 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 60 of the calendar, House Bill number 409 by Representative Bedsole, relating to the City of Alabaster.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 53 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question for the body now is final passage of 409. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 10 ayes, 0 nays. 409 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 59 of the calendar, House Bill number 410 by Representative Crawford, relating to Limestone County.
Question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 56 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of 410. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 16 ayes, 0 nays. HB 410 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 59 of the calendar, House Bill number 412 by Representative Crawford, relating to Limestone County.
Question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 56 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of 412. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 11 ayes, 0 nays. HB 412 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 60 of the calendar, House Bill number 416 by Representative Robertson, relating to Cleburne County.
Question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 53 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of HB 416. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 13 ayes, 0 nays. HB 416 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 59 of the calendar, House Bill number 337, a constitutional amendment by Representative Witt, relating to Madison County.
Chairman Witt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This has to do simply with Madison County. We are taking the privately owned sewer systems that are using the public right-of-ways in Madison County and putting them under the jurisdiction there of the Public Service Commission. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 54 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question for the body is passage of HB 337. I don't have it on, I don't. Yeah. Okay, it's my understanding from the clerk, we got a committee sub on this. Chairman Witt.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Inadvertently, we had left out three class or grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the wastewater. The original bill only had wastewater number 3.
Okay, you heard the gentleman's explanation of the substitute. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes, 54 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask for final passage of HB 337.
That is questions, final passage of HB 337 as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. This does require 63 votes as a constitutional amendment. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 64 ayes, 0 nays. Bill has passed. Question now is local application. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 38 ayes, 0 nays. HB 337 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 59 of the calendar, House Bill number 421, a constitutional amendment by Representative Yarborough relating to Lawrence County.
Representative Yarborough, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. This is the same bill as passed by other counties. It just caps the property tax for Lawrence County for those 65 and over. And with that, I'd move to the BIR.
That's questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 57 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question for the body now is passage of HB 421. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Is this a constitutional amendment requiring 63 votes? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 67 ayes, 0 nays. The bill has passed. Question now is local application. Members, clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote, 25 ayes, 0 nays. HB 421 has passed. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee. Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk, say the resolution.
House Resolution number 125 from the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
I have one amendment.
Okay?
The one amendment is HB 40. We thought they were lined up. We had one amendment that did not make it line up with the Senate bill, so we just want to swap HB 40 for SB 19, exact same bill, per the sponsor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Clerk, call first bill on special order calendar.
On page 51 of the calendar, House Bill number 381 with substitute by Representative Faulkner relating to camp safety.
Representative Faulkner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, try not to get too emotionally tied to bills and that we bring down here, but this bill is special to me, and special, I know, to lots of you who co-sponsored this bill. At the end of June, 750 girls were dropped off at Camp Mystic in Texas. One of those young girls was Sarah Marsh. She's an 8-year-old little girl that lives in my neighborhood. Like many, when the Marshes dropped Sarah off, they trusted that basic safety systems would be in place. They assumed there would be transparency about risk, trained staff, emergency communication, and evacuation plans. What happened at Camp Mystic in Texas exposed dangerous gaps in how youth camps are regulated, monitored, and held accountable. Those gaps, not only in Texas, but in Alabama and across the country. In many states, camp safety regulations are minimal, inconsistently enforced, or outdated. At Camp Mystic, there was no effective emergency communication system. Cell service in the area was unreliable, and counselors were required to surrender their phones. There were no walkie-talkies, no intercoms, and no effective way to communicate evacuation instructions to each cabin in an emergency where minutes matter. That void left staff unable to coordinate a response and left counselors and campers without guidance. Even more alarming, members, was the absence of a viable evacuation plan. Alabama sends thousands of children to in-state and out-of-state camps every year. Parents reasonably expect that camps operating here or serving Alabama families meet rigorous safety standards. But many states, including Alabama, rely heavily on self-reporting, limited inspections, and vague emergency planning requirements. What this bill, the Sarah Marsh Heavens 27 Camp Safety Act does, it puts in common sense requirements on our summer camps. This bill applies only to overnight camps. It does not apply to day camps. It's going to require that an emergency preparedness license be issued by the EMA to camps to operate as an overnight camp. We will have a public registry now going forward of the licensed camps in Alabama. These camps will be required to have emergency action plans. They will be required to have mandatory safety systems. They will be required to have transparency with parents and guardians. They will be required to have safety training and drills. There will be a prohibition of cabins in floodplain areas. And staff will be required to have criminal background checks. Members, that's what the bill does. And I want to reiterate to you that Alabama has great camps. And our camps are doing a lot of these things already. But we need to have a requirement that the camps do these things, and to see that those plans, those evacuation plans, those safety measures are reviewed by professionals and determine that these plans are good. And that's what this bill does. I want to thank the governor for her support of this. She mentioned camp safety in her State of the State. So Governor Ivey, I thank you, and I thank you for your press release saying you're in 100% support of this bill. Speaker Ledbetter, I want to thank you and your staff for your support on this bill and working with us. I have to thank Emily Schultz, and Emily I know is somewhere up there in the gallery. Emily has worked tirelessly on this bill. She's a close friend of the Marshes. So Emily, I could not have done this bill, gotten it to where it is without you. Thank you so much. I also thank Will Fuller, his work. He did so much. Summer Vaughn, was involved as well early. I want to thank the camp associations and the camp owners. I want to thank Alan McBride, Rob Hammond, two owners of camps who spoke with me directly, the camp association and Kim Adams, their lobbyist. Thank you for working with us on this bill to make it so much stronger. And lastly, I want to thank the Marshes, Patrick and Jill, for entrusting me with this bill to honor their daughter, Sarah. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would move for the BIR, if there's no question.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for the recognition. I want to commend the gentleman for bringing this legislation, but you left out the most important part of it. It's the incompetence of the professionals from Homeland Security on down. The problem was not the local camps. It was that people didn't get. It troubles me, Mr. Speaker. And when I saw the news report of what took place in Texas and people enjoying themselves instead of trying to get help to those people in that camp, when you cut budgets, take away weather service and emergency response team and time, these things, this is the results of what took place. Totally incompetent on the administration. And I don't even think they have apologized for their incompetence. Those lives was lost. Those young children and other campus adults that lost their lives that day and that night. And you hadn't heard one thing from the administration. How this going to help them move forward, my colleague? I mean, I'm with you. I'm supporting 100%, but you left out the main ingredient here. Those people did everything on the local level in Texas. Nobody responded to them in time. That's why we had so many lives lost. And how this going to affect that?
Well, with all due respect to my colleague, who I love dearly, once these young girls in this camp was swept away in those floods, it was going to be highly unlikely that anybody was going to be able to get to them in time to save them. And what this bill does is make sure that they will not be in harm's way. Well, you can never ensure someone's safety 100%.
That was flash flood. That was flash flood.
That's correct. But while we can never ensure someone's safety 100% in some emergency situation, what we can do is make it so that campers are in a safer position. And what this bill does is make sure the staff is trained, that the communication exists to have warned them before that flood ever hit that camp. And so that these campers could have been safely out of harm's way.
It could have been moved up to a higher level, higher ground.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't so much people, the incompetence of those persons in charge. Now, I'm not going to let them off the hook. Have they retrieved all those bodies?
To my knowledge, only one young girl of Heavens 27 has not been found.
See, it's totally incompetent from the federal government. I'm glad you're bringing this, and I hope that it brings some closure to all those persons who were so adamantly involved in the tragedy of loss of life and their family members. But the community itself has suffered a great loss. That was a great camp. A lot of people talked about that camp for girls, and it behooves us that when we look at and saw that people just they didn't care. And that troubles me. And we got administration that they don't care about common people. They don't, I mean, the most vulnerable. They have no compassion. Unless you're a billionaire, you get the attention of the people. But people that lives every day to enjoy this great promise that America has given us, and then they be snatched away, and nobody cares. But I really thank you for bringing some attention to this to the problem. I don't think Alabama has that problem because I think we have good safety measures already in place. I've been in camps before. I've been the ag chair, and we in conservation. We've gone to a lot of places to see these actual things back in the day. So we upgraded a lot of cabinets back then. But let us remember those that was hurt the most, the one that lost so much, their loved ones. So thank you for bringing this, but it's not going to relieve me because the same incompetence is still incompetent right now. Homeland Security. And then you want to didn't want to spend the money. The problem, you got to get approval from, you got an emergency situation and you got to call the secretary to ask for approval when there's a 5-alarm fire. So I'm grateful to you, my colleague, my friend, and I appreciate it. And I'm with you, but I'm glad you brought some attention to this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Henry, Representative Ream.
Thank you for recognition, Mr. Speaker. Representative Faulkner, I'm here to praise you. All the T's you had to cross and the I's you had to dot to do this comprehensive package. This is probably the most important work we're going to do here today, and I want to thank you, and I completely support your bill.
Thank you, and thank you for being a co-sponsor.
The chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery, Representative Hassel.
So I just want to say I work for Young Life, and I take
I
between
remember
30.
that.
That's right, 30 and 40 kids to camp every year. And
Thank you for what you do there.
I appreciate it. So I just want to say thank you for bringing this bill. You know, I do a lot of camps, Camp Association. They do have a lot of these procedures, but just to reinforce it, I appreciate you bringing the bill. I just want to say thank you for doing it.
I appreciate that, sir.
Our kids
Thank
are precious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marshall, Representative Colvin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Faulkner, just want to come today and thank you for bringing this important piece of legislation. This was an absolute tragedy that could have been avoided, and we're praying for those families who lost loved ones that day, but I appreciate you taking the initiative to bring this important piece of legislation to Alabama to try to make sure that never happens again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The question for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I would move for adoption of the committee sub, which incorporated some changes at this time, if there's no further questions.
Okay, you care to explain your sub?
Sure. We clarified some language, members, in committee that dealt with camps that lease out their facility, making it clear what responsibilities were. We added some folks to the Youth Advisory Council, and that was the main. We did some changes regarding the floodplain language that we may still have to tinker with after today, but that was the main bulk of the changes, members, in the committee sub.
Okay, this is on the substitute. Ms. Jackson, you want to talk on sub? Okay. Wait just a second. Ms. Hall, you want to speak on the sub or the bill? Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall. While she's making her way down here, I got some guests in the gallery. Let me recognize them. The Pleasant Grove High School, Midfield High School from Jefferson County, and they are the guest of Representative Patrick Sellers. Let's give them a big hand. Also, the Fayette Leadership Group, guest of Representative Brinyard. And also we have Coleman County Commissioners and Revenue Commissioners, guest of the Coleman County delegation, as well as Jackie Stringer and Jax. Am I saying that first name right? Jacqueline. Let's give them a big hand, the guest of Representative Shane Stringer. Sorry about that, Ms. Hall.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would you look with me on page 2? Now, when you talked about the changes, page 2, number 2.
Page 2. Yes, ma'am.
Starting at line 42. I'm making the assumption, as I have with other bills, that that section when it's highlighted, those are the changes that occurred during the committee. Am I correct?
You said line 2, page
Number
2,
2.
line 41.
42, line 42. So this says it has individual entities maintain a camp that includes staff members who may service, dining, recreation, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But committee, because
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't go back to the original.
What we did, the change that I think you're referring to is under the definition of camp.
That's correct.
And we put a period if you look at the very last sentence, we put a period after educational institution.
Hold on.
And we took out for a gathering of campers for educational, instructional, or training purposes.
All right.
So the term does
Hold up
not
just a minute. I'm not sure. What line are you on?
That is it's right there at line 51.
Okay, so at 51, this is what I have as a substitute. Line 51, the person that leases a camp for a retreat, that is what you just read, right?
Yes, ma'am. I put
Okay,
a
I said
period
you put a period where, I'm sorry, go ahead.
after educational institution, and we took out the remaining part of that sentence because it didn't matter why they were gathering. We have exempted a structure. This term does not include, a camp does not include residences at an educational institution, and it doesn't matter what the purpose is. We just simply said if it's a residence at an educational institution like a college or a dormitory.
So read me what you show for that particular. You're at line 51.
Yes, ma'am.
Read what you have.
Yes, and you're just putting a period after educational institution.
That's not what I have here. On the substitute.
I was reading from my copy.
You must be reading from the original bill.
I am, as far as the line numbers, and so I have the amendment with me. I did not have the committee sub. So if you go to...
So that's how you confuse us. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I understand the confusion. So on on the sub, if you go to under the definition of camp.
Right, that starts at line 37. You go,
Okay.
line 37 on page 2 starts with camp operator, and then it has highlighted the term includes, and then it starts listing the different areas, and then you have a
Yes.
number 1. Is that what you're talking about?
So it's down here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the line number. Okay, Ms. Hall, it is up at the very top of page 2. So it has changed. It's lines 29 and 30. see there on line 30, it ends after educational institution.
All right, that's, so we're at the
We're on the
same
same
place
line.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so lines 29 and 30, you start, line 29 starts with use of available dormitory space or other residents at an education institution.
And the only change there was we cut off the rest of the
That's,
sentence.
listen, once I get the substitute and I'm thinking that we're all on the same page, I'm fine, I got that. So the change that you made in the 42 was an individual or entity had to remain, that maintains the camp. That's 42 through 46.
Yes.
All right. And so the other changes that exist on that page, there was one thing that you mentioned that you indicated that day camps were not included in this process.
That's correct.
Why not?
So we have this focus for an emergency preparedness license is on overnight camps only. And so we were not getting into the space of requiring an emergency preparedness license for day camps. Now, day camps will have the Department of Public Health, will of course have whatever they do, but for the picking up and dropping off of children at the morning and in the evening or in the midday, whatever it may be, thank you, Jeff. We do not have, we're not putting an emergency preparedness license on day camps.
But if they're in a floodplain, so when I go to page 6, lines 157, you're starting on January 27. No camp shall construct, expand, or operate a cabin located in a floodplain. So are you saying even if it's a day camp, it's still?
Well, what this bill is doing is only applying to overnight camps. So this will have no bearing on day camps, you know, whether it be a children's church day camp. But if you leave your child overnight with somebody, then that's when this license comes into play. This license will not concern itself with day camps where children do not stay overnight.
Even if they're in a floodplain?
Well, if that's the case, yes, ma'am. I would hope that's not the case, but you know, day camps would still have all the regulations they comply with, and parents could be called in the event of any type of emergency to get their child.
I understand. I understand the difference between day and night. It just seems like if that there should be some evidence of these type of cautionary actions taken even for the day camp.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, thanks, ladies. You're recognized as the gentleman from Jackson, Representative Jackson. From Clark, Representative Jackson.
You said Jackson, MAG is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask a question as it relates to, you said you make some changes. People to the committee or board, or what was those changes? I don't have that.
Well, that's why I was looking at the amendment earlier, the amendment that we had done in the committee was.
You said some folks. I was trying to find out who those folks were.
Oh, no, it was me. I mean, I was making in the team that was been working on this with me. We were just making changes to clarify language. We added somebody to the advisory council. I'm going to have a floor amendment to add someone else here in a minute.
Maybe that's what I'm talking. You added some people to the advisory council.
Yes.
Who are those people you adding to the council?
Yeah, we added somebody from the YMCA. The YMCA runs 2 camps here in Alabama. In an amendment, I have a floor amendment that simply adds somebody from Scouting America. Okay. They have 11 camps in the state. Yeah. We already had on the advisory council members from the Camp Association.
Camp Asca? Is that involved in anybody from Camp Asca?
They can be. I mean, if they're a member of the Alabama Camp Association, we have 2 reps on there. In fact, I made one of those people the co-chair with the EMA. And then I'm going to add here in a minute the Scouting America.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that those people that you are adding are competent to protect and harness our children when they are.
Oh, and we have almost every emergency group on the advisory council.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Concerning the, I think I'm on page 7, line 71, that talks about the criteria. It's a removal of a cabin from a floodplain by a letter map amendment shall not by itself constitute compliance with this section. So who's going to determine the compliance of whether, since it seems like it's going to need other criteria to determine whether it's out of a floodplain?
Well, and this has been a particular, it's been very interesting for me to learn about how this is done. And of course, FEMA is who sets and really handles that.
Yeah.
Now, through ADECA here in the state of Alabama, which I didn't realize, I thought it was EMA. It's actually through ADECA. And I should give a thank you to EMA and ADECA for their help with the bill. I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. But it's really FEMA sets these standards. And then it's very technical. And
do you make reference to FEMA doing the standards? Because the one thing I guess the added question I've got when you talked about the people that's going to be on the board, do you have anybody from the Army Corps of Engineers?
Not the Army Corps of Engineers. We have EMA.
But why not the Army Corps of Engineers? Because they're pretty much the experts when you're talking about floodplains.
Well, FEMA really is who.
No, they don't. I work with both of them.
Well, and Ms. Moore, I know you've had experience with a lot of.
Yeah, and where I got most of my information and work from was with the Army Corps of Engineers coming out to do the investigation and then writing up the report, because they do a lot of that type of work. And even though FEMA, is so broad in all the things, I've worked with them, and they so broad in all the things that they do. But I would think that you would have somebody that, proven, even though FEMA is too, but they have so much other stuff that they have to do. And I'm just surprised, like you, how they would go to ADECA rather than to ADM to be working with them on that. But I just don't see where the ADECA part fits in.
Well,
Can you explain that part?
Well, yes, ma'am. I mean, I was looking at the advisory. What I was doing while you were talking was looking at the advisory council to see if the Corps Engineers was one of those folks, but I do not see them here. What I learned through this process is that ADECA handles the FEMA studies of floodplains, floodways.
Do they do the studies, ADECA?
ADECA hires the contractors to do the work for FEMA.
So why would you pay that extra money when you got the Army Corps of Engineers that could do it?
This is the way I'm told the process works.
Yeah, but that don't mean the process is right. I'm always saying that, and since you've learned it, we might need to look back to see how that association happens when you've got an organization that can do the studies for you. And what I've experienced in the area where I live and my district, because we've got a lot of flood problems that we've had to mitigate over the years, and I've used a combination. I've worked with ADM as well as the Army Corps of Engineers, because with one of the areas, we eventually was able, through the help of the Army Corps of Engineers, to develop a subdivision there. But for years, everybody always talked about it being a floodplain. But I'm kind of concerned, too, that if we have an agency that we can work with, why not work with them and save those dollars for ADECA to be able to use someplace else? But I'm just surprised, too. But that's one thing I wanted to put on the table, had you consider using the Army Corps with you.
Well, thank you for that. I don't have your experience with the Army Corps of Engineers, but I do feel like, EMA feels like we've.
Well, you know, when you live in an area that has not had government assistance for a mighty long time, that's where we get our experience in trying to upgrade the area and make it livable where we can have built houses or businesses in those areas. It ain't like I got years, but I know we're just trying to improve the quality of life of the people in the district. That's where my experience comes. But I was just wondering, why would we spend out money where we got an agency? You know, a lot of things are put in place in the past, might have done well, but maybe now at some point we need to reconsider to see at some point we're going to have a dollar crunch, and we could start preparing and see how we could best use the citizens' taxes.
Question for the body is adoption of the substitute. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Representative Faulkner.
Mr. Speaker, I do have, as I mentioned, a very simple floor amendment. Members, I know this, you don't have this in front of you, so all this floor amendment does is add a representative from Scouting America to my advisory council. That's all the floor amendment does. And
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment 2, House Bill number 381 by Representative Faulkner.
Question now is passage of the floor amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The floor amendment has been adopted. Representative Faulkner.
with that, Mr. Speaker, I would move for final passage as committee subbed and amended.
That is the question. It's final passage as committee subbed and amended. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record that vote. 104 ayes, 0 nays. HB 381 as substituted amendment has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I could ask for a moment of personal privilege.
You're granted.
Thank you, sir. Members, as I mentioned, this bill is named the Sarah Marsh Heavens 27 Camp Safety Act. Sarah's mother, Jill, testified in front of the committee last week on Wednesday. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today because she has patients that she had to see. Her father, though, Patrick Marsh, is here with us today. Patrick, if you would please stand. I truly believe, Patrick, that Sarah's legacy will save lives of children going forward. And I'm so blessed that you gave me this opportunity, entrusted me with this opportunity to bring this bill to honor your daughter. And for all those that are unfortunately members of Heavens 27, but may this bill move forward and honor their legacy and save lives going forward.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Resident Jackson, for a moment of personal privilege.
Speaker, I was trying to get the sponsor of the bill to open up for co-sponsors. I think he will have everybody in this house will co-sponsor that bill. In July this past year, we was on vacation, my family. And we cried when we saw the news report of what was taking place in Texas, and nobody responded. And I mean, it hurts, and it still hurts, and we need to change that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I would be happy to do that, Mr. Speaker, if it's allowed, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, let's do it. We're going to open up for co-sponsors. Clerk,
Thank
unlock
you.
the machine. It looks like we have 101 co-sponsors. Thank you. Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 71 by Senator Chasteen relating to administrative rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body SB 71 is a bill related to regulatory rules and specifically provides a framework by which the state of Alabama can operate to provide stability for our businesses, our farmers, and others throughout the state. This bill provides a way in which the state of Alabama can pass its own regulations related to the environment in the event that the federal government does not address those particular matters. We will, in those cases, use generally accepted scientific practices and sound science rules to do that. This bill is a limited government bill. It maintains the authority with the state of Alabama to ensure that we are protecting the people of Alabama and the industries and farmers that support our state. And with that, I ask for the BIR.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Limestone, Chairman Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Now, this bill from my agriculture community is very positive, and it's, you know, we in the poultry business, cattle business, or row crop, nursery, forestry, there's always things added on, more regulation and things like that. And to me, this is a potential less regulation bill, and something that that we needed. And I assume you worked with Senator Chasteen on it. I know you had a bill yourself, so tell me about your status on that.
Yes, we did file House Bill 162, which is the companion bill to SB 71. We made the decision a few weeks ago. SB 71 had already moved through committee in the Senate, and given the fact that the bills are identical and Senator Chasteen and I worked so closely together on these bills that it was in our best interest and the interest of the people of Alabama that we move forward with SB 71.
All right. Well, being less regulation, I know a lot of people will be happy about that. It seems to be the way the party and our platform has gone, many things. And do you have an opponent?
Do I? I do not.
You're lucky. I have a general, but I don't have a primary. But our primary candidates ought to be really happy for the things that we have achieved in this quadrennium. This is my fourth election, and the things we have accomplished, you sort of wish you had one, because what would they run on your opponent for what all we've done? I sat down watching Auburn get killed by Arkansas the other night, and I was thinking about what should I try to get together for my reelection, and I looked at some of the things that accomplished. You know, we did tax cuts, 1.5 billion of tax cuts in this quadrennium. We've done pro-life bills. We've done easy-to-adopt bills. We've done school choice bills. So there's several things that we've done, and this goes right along with it, less regulation. So we're thrilled to have that, and I want to thank our speaker who has given us the leadership, conservative leadership that we needed to get to this point. But my farm community, anytime you can get less regulations, lower the threshold to be able to operate a good level playing field where you can compete. And this does that for industries, business, and farmers. And thank you for bringing it.
All right. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Representative Hall from Madison.
Oh, I thought we were still figuring out all of the good things that had happened during this session. Thank you. Thank you. But anyway, help me to understand this now. What are we trying to do? What is the ultimate goal?
The ultimate goal is to provide stability and continuity for businesses, farmers, other agricultural industry in the state of Alabama. When we have a regulatory body in the state or federal government that continually changes the rules or is changing regulations by which those industries have to adapt, then it makes it very difficult to be successful both in industry and in agriculture.
So what has happened where the rules have been changed to create the situation that you find yourself in at this particular point? What has happened? Because I'm just thinking, I'm going to let you answer.
Yes, ma'am.
But I've heard some changes that have made absolutely no sense to me if you're talking about from the federal level. Made no sense. So help me before I give you what I've heard. Tell me what has happened that brought you to this point.
Well, we know that from an environmental perspective in the state of Alabama, ADEM is the regulatory body. And ADEM, as a general rule, along with all other state agencies, first looks at the federal guidelines. ADEM is an enforcement arm of the EPA in the state of Alabama. Things like the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, dealing with coal residue, all of those things are
Stop
federal.
right there. Clean water.
Clean Air Act.
Clean air. So are you making effort? Are you coming with an effort to say that we don't want clean air and we don't want clean water?
Absolutely not. We have complied with those acts by the federal government and will continue to do so. None of that changes in this legislation.
So what are we trying to change then? We don't want to change the clean water. We're going to let it stay as it is. We're not doing anything to do that. The clean air, we're not doing anything. So what is it that we are wanting to change?
Well, what we are doing is we are ensuring that our state agencies, in this case relating to environment, ADEM, is not an agency that adds regulations above and beyond those that are already established.
Can you stop right there? What at this point has ADEM at any point have added additional regulations to what the federal government has required? Can you give me an example?
I do not have a specific example about ADEM, but what I can tell you is that cost of living is one of the highest priorities in the state of Alabama and throughout the country. And the states that are experiencing the most significant cost of living, I think we could go through the list, but one example is California. As they continue...
But I'm in Alabama.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I want
Not
to
in
stay in
California.
Alabama.
Okay.
And I want Alabama to stay the way it is.
What I'm trying to determine is where are we, what is it that you're wanting to change to make different?
The goal is to ensure that we are not overregulated, and in the event that the federal government does not address a particular issue, there may be an environmental issue that's unique to Alabama that's not in other places.
Can you stop right there? Can you give me an example of where you think we are overregulated?
Where we are overregulated?
Yeah, right now, yes, that this bill would address.
Well, I think that the permitting process for virtually any, I was a chairman of a county commission just to get permits for water and sewer, for other.
You were overregulated?
Yes.
In
things
what
take-
way? Help me to understand. Listen now, I'm seeking information
Mhm, yes.
because it just gets my attention that you're saying that we must make some adjustment and changes based on what may have come from federal.
Mhm.
Am I clear on that?
We are not changing any federal laws. We are not changing how we comply with federal
Let
law.
me apologize to you. You were about to answer about what it was like for you as a county commissioner. Will you finish that?
Yes, so whenever you're doing any type of infrastructure project, whether it's a government doing infrastructure projects like installing water and sewer lines, expanding those to underserved areas, the regulations and the permitting and other processes that you have to go through are very burdensome and very costly. When private industry comes for economic development, the things that they are required to do with regards to regulations are very burdensome.
Can you give me an example of what was a burdensome regulation that you encountered when you were making this request as a county commissioner?
Well, I wouldn't say it's related to specifically to environmental issues, but you asked about regulation.
Well, yes, hold on, back up. It would if you're talking about water,
Mhm,
flowing the water. Let's say if you're dealing with sewage in your county,
mhm.
and there are regulations for that, and that sewage is going into a creek or a river.
Right. Well,
There
all
are
of those
regulations for that.
all of those matters are regulated by the Clean Water Act. What I'm talking about from a permitting perspective is moving through, getting access to right-of-ways, getting the ability to dig in certain areas. Again, you asked about regulations.
Right.
Those things are not related to this bill, but those are an example of burdensome regulation that hinders our ability to improve the quality of life for the people of Alabama.
So it seems like the regulations that you're talking about are regulations that either from your city or your county, you're saying that you want from the work that you've done as a county commissioner, that you want to have less regulations in order for you to get things done.
Well, in this body, I can't control those.
Now, but you said you were based in your
Yes.
comments on the work that you've done as a county commissioner.
Yes, I believe that we should streamline and make things as efficient as possible, and having bureaucratic layers of regulations hinders business, hinders progress, and slows down the improvement of the quality of life for the people of Alabama.
All right, so list for me what you consider bureaucratic layers.
Bureaucratic layers?
Uh-huh.
Well, all agencies in state government have various layers by which, like permits, for example, the initial application, the vetting of the application, the inspection.
So the initial application, and then in order to get the application, somebody has to vet that. You saying another person, or you got to go to another office or another area? Okay, what's the next step?
Likely so. And then the next step, once maybe approved, maybe not approved, maybe an extension is applied for. Some of these things can be done very efficiently, and we've made an effort as this body and in the state to improve economic activity by streamlining things.
And so tell me what that process would look like when this bill passes. Tell me what that process would be like before, and then what you envision that process is going to look like when you get this bill passed.
Well, this bill does not specifically relate to the logistics of that process, but what it does is creates and establishes a framework by which regulations can be created or made.
Okay, all right, and the framework today, tell me what that framework today is like versus what you envision the framework would be like.
Well, the framework in the state of Alabama today has no specific expectations or guidelines by which what this bill does, it explicitly defines sound science and using vetted materials to make decisions.
All right.
And the bill explicitly explains what a generally accepted scientific or technical practice is.
But you're saying up to this point, we've done all of this work in Alabama. we've
Representative,
done
your
it
time has
without
expired.
Any
The
guidelines.
chair recognizes Representative Hammett from Covington.
Thank you for the recognition. How are you, Mr. Stubbs?
Great.
We had a good talk this weekend about this bill.
I appreciate the call.
Since we've been here, we came in together. Do you think there's some bills we passed that had some unintended consequences we didn't see coming?
Do I think that we've had bills
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Probably so. Yeah.
I think this is one. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So right now, the EPA, a state rule they can be the same as EPA's, but can't be less stringent. Is that correct? And that's what you're wanting to keep.
A state rule?
I'm saying
Correct.
ADM has to be the same or stricter than the EPA rule. Is that the way it goes?
ADM currently has to be the same or less stringent than the federal government.
All right, let me ask you, and I asked you the other day, and you said you were going to find out.
Mhm.
So, does EPA require local consent on the landfill? I'm just asking, or that's the state of Alabama did legislation several years ago saying, hey, you can't just run it here and put a landfill in this county or this town without local consent from the county commissioners or the city council. If this bill passes, is that going to do away with it since that's a state of Alabama deal about the local consent? Or
No, because the EPA guidelines related to federal law, which is applicable throughout the country, those guidelines are in place. If there are not specific guidelines or rules related to a particular topic, such as whether there's local consent or not local consent, then the state has the ability to apply or to generate a regulation that would handle that. And this does not change local consent on those matters.
well, where does it say in there it doesn't change anything that's already in existence?
The only thing in here that specifically must be changed is any rule in the state of Alabama that has been created based on IRIS, which is a federal risk system, then those must be replaced within 9 months of this bill passing.
All right, let me ask you a question. So, I know a bill we did earlier this session, Representative Marcus, dealing with the dredging in the Mobile Bay. Well, that's more stringent than the EPA. Is this bill going to kill that if that legislation goes through?
Absolutely not. There's a significant difference between a rule and a law. So passing regulations or framework for regulations simply applies to regulations. A law established by the state of Alabama, by this body, such as the dredging law that was created and passed through this body and the Senate, would always supersede any rule or regulation generated by an agency in the state.
I told you the other day why I was a little bit leery of this, what I'm having to deal with in my county. I just do hope this does not open up a can of worms, and I think the ADM should be able to, if they see a problem, step in here and say, hey, we need to do this. Let me ask you a question. You doesn't say specifically ADM in the end of this bill. It says agencies. Does that go to oil? Is Oil and Gas Board going to be under this also?
Well, it prohibits agencies from adopting a new rule that establishes standards for certain environmental protection subjects that are more stringent than the federal requirements.
So this is going, the Oil and Gas Board be under this also, same as ADM?
Well, is that an agency?
Say it's a board. I mean, I guess.
So-
What would you think?
I don't know. This says agencies, not boards. So I don't know a specific answer to that, but all conversations I've participated in have been related to ADEM, specifically the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, but I can now say with surety that it does not apply to a board.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed talking to you the other day, and I've enjoyed it today.
All right.
I'm probably going to be against your bill.
I appreciate
anyway.
it.
Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
sir.
The chair recognizes Representative Travis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Well, of course, you know, this is one of my areas that I love to get into and everything. And you know, when people start talking about moving regulations and everything, really kind of gets me in concern because most regulations that I feel like, and coming from an engineering standpoint, are usually based upon a lot of studies, a lot of research, quantitative analysis, and stuff like that, for it comes into place and those factors are determined. And I think most people don't realize, you know, when we start talking about rolling back environmental protection regulations, or changing them, it becomes an issue because it is usual local circumstances or situations that cause people to react and to set environmental standards. For instance, I think it's the Chattahoochee River, you know, when the EPA regulation was founded in 1970 under President Nixon, we had environmental standards that would, that the river was actually on fire burning. And, you know, and basically, you know, because of the attitude of dealing with waste and everything was the solution, dilute was the solution, you know, to it just dumping in the river. And there was so much contamination going that the river actually caught on fire and was burning. So that pushed the prompt. And then there was another issue where we dealt with called Love Canal in New York, where we had a lot of chemicals were dumped into the river, into a canal, and over years, and then the contamination began to seep from the canal through groundwater and moved into people's houses and everything, their basements, and people began to get sick, and there were issues that related to that, even in some circumstances where the officials were actually captured by the community. So when we start talking about rolling them back, you know, and I know we've had a lot of equations, dance equations, stuff like that, particularly dealing with different regulations, whether it's air and water. For instance, like last week, there were some regulations rolled back dealing with air regulations, you know, dealing with the country, what they're talking about environment. So for me, when you start rolling them back and everything, you know, it poses a question to me because most time it is local circumstances or situations that causes, you know, a reaction that we have to react to, that we need to deal with. And, you know, and while most time, most situations or circumstances is built from, okay, this is what regulations we have, this is what research that we have, this is how we've been able to identify the contaminant, this is where we've been able to identify the limit of contamination. What I may need to do because of soil condition, because of water table, maybe because of air issues or air quality, I may need to do something differently here than I need to do somewhere else. So what I'm saying, that area circumstances is, you know, it's area situation is the same. So my question is, why do we feel like, you know, does this gives us enough limitation? Because they're saying the only standard that we're going to use, you know, even with just EPA standards, you know, if EPA standards is not sufficient to meet what problem that we have with and everything, because most time it takes coming in and we got to do something where that's a major problem. Else we trying to prevent something from happening and everything, you know. And I think one of the things, what I know you mentioned California problem, but one of the problems in California is that so many vehicles there that the air emission was so great, you know, that even what you could drive around flying into, you know, that the air quality becomes, you know, takes because of stuff. And then the other part of that gets into, issue, I think I told you about the aromatic equation where you use temperature and stuff like that and calculate flow. One of the big contamination problems in Birmingham, where we dealt with the coke industries, where they were storing so many contaminants, is because when people used to burn, which was the other way that you got rid of contamination, was to burn it. But just because you burned it doesn't mean you got rid of it. It just went up the smokestack and then dissipated into the air, and then based upon the air level. And I think if lately you've been driving around, what they've been doing, burning some national, forests, have been burning forests, you kind of see the smokestack go up, then it settles down at a point, and then the next morning you get up, everything's all smelling like smoke. Well, which means that the product you didn't get rid of, it just dissipated another way and everything. So my concern is where we putting us now, trying to move, not giving any substance to ADM, because ADM right now has not been part of this discussion as far as I'm saying. It's just us saying this is what we want ADM to do.
Well, ADM has been consulted throughout this process, and they are very aware of all of the things that we are discussing. And I think that what's important to note is that we are not repealing anything, in the sense that the things that ADM currently enforces, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and numerous other federal guidelines and regulations that are in place, those are still functioning, and ADM has applied those in the state. ADM has fined Alabama Power related to coal ash. ADM has fined solar farms related to the Clean Water Act. ADM is doing those things in all of those instances. It is an application of the federal law and the federal government. So to assume that we are pulling back any existing state regulations is not factual, because this does not repeal or pull back any existing state regulations other than anything related to IRIS, which, if you follow Congress, there are proposals right now to remove IRIS in its entirety. And I will say this, I agree with you wholeheartedly with regard to using data. And this law goes through all of the guidelines related to what is an acceptable scientific fact. And it goes through all of the things that many of us learned in science class, doing an experiment that can be replicated, for example, so that you can continue to do that same experiment, having it scientifically defensible, using methods, principles, and protocols that are broadly acknowledged, using peer review information, using refereed journals. So this does not remove the use of sound science and legitimate science. What it does is protects Alabama and the people of Alabama from runaway government that can become overly burdensome and regulatory to a point that it drives cost of living way up and quality of life way down.
Well, I understand that, but my thing is, because of what it said, based upon rules, federal government, for instance, we had the air quality rule that was rolled back or removed last week. We had the issue that there was searches dealing with mercury and air toxin standards rolled back that has taken place. The methane emission standards, there's been a rollback on those and everything. So my question, and that's where my concern comes in, because if you're rolling back those standards that we're already on a level, but we still need to have it maintained, because, for instance, the other thing that's important to me when we get into air quality and everything is that the fact is that, where outside air also affects the most important thing, where we spend most of our time, is inside air quality. And that's one of the things that's, I did a lot of research on that previously, office building, inside air quality, and that's a big deal. So, that's why I'm asking, how does that apply? Because
well, if the federal government rolls something back and they no longer have a regulation,
right,
then we can have our own regulation if there's not a federal regulation. And I would submit that some of the regulations you're referring to were rushed through in the last week of the Biden administration and put on the people of the country. And some of those are now being repealed back, but it's not as though they've been in play for decades, many of which were pushed through at the end, and now we're seeing some of those bit by bit being pulled back. But again, if there's not a regulation in place, or if that regulation is pulled back, then the state of Alabama can act in accordance with this law.
Okay, well, look to the dialogue which is a little further. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. The question is the adoption of the BIR. Those in favor will vote aye, and those opposed will vote no. The clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will vote. Oh. Vote yes. Good. All right, the clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. The BIR is adopted. The question now is the passage of the bill. I know, I'm sorry, I'm new at this. All right, Representative Jones from Mobile, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
I have looked at various sections of the bill, and as you know, ADM serves as a regulatory agency and have to really apply regulations that many times are caused by what EPA puts out. And I know you've been through the landfill situation and all those different things. The thing that concerns me about the bill is there are some things I see here that might make it very, very difficult for ADM to apply the EPA rule. One of those being, I think you say on, let me just go to page 4. Line 104.
Say page 4,
Yes.
104.
Right.
Got it.
I have a problem with direct. That's in that sentence. Also on 112, line 112, it says direct. I don't know if it's possible to give a direct causal of cancer. I don't know if that's possible, because there are so many different kinds. And when EPA or health officials determine that there's a certain pocket in the country or even in the state that have very high levels of this particular cancer, they can't tell you exactly what causes that, but they know that the people in this area are exposed to the same environmental hazards. So what we're saying now is that ADM couldn't possibly follow this regulation if they have to give a direct cause for it. And I don't think anybody can. There are different kinds, mesothelioma, myeloma, and there are a lot of things they tell you that causes it. But then there are some things that they think are really more associated with it than any other measures. So I'm concerned about that word direct. I'm not that concerned about how it's written here other than the word direct, because direct really comes to a point where I don't think ADM or even EPA can show a direct cause in medical situations. So I'm real concerned about that. In many cases, there are parts of the country where there are very, very high incidence of certain kinds of cancer. But if you try to go and prove that that's exactly what did it and that's exactly why that person has cancer, that's almost impossible to do. And I think you'll find that that has been proven over the years. But what we do is we put together a regulation that we think will limit access to that particular region on certain kinds of diseases based on that. The cancer center in Mobile, there's a certain kind of cancer that goes in that Gulf region. And as a result of that, those particular regulations by ADM, as they're enforced there, people feel a lot more comfortable with that because they know their father, their brother, uncle, all had this particular form of cancer because of the kind of industries that they are exposed to. I understand that what we're trying to do is not trying to overregulate to a point where it affects our economic development and affects our, but I don't think that we can forget about what it does to a community as it relates to health conditions. So that's why I have a problem with the word direct. And, you know, I would really like to offer what I consider a friendly amendment to your bill.
Amendment 2, Senate Bill number 71 by Representative Jones.
Explain the amendment, please.
The amendment just simply takes the word direct out of 104 and 112 on page 4 in the legislation. Does not take anything out but the word direct.
Do you consider that a friendly amendment, or would you going to lay that on the table? What's your choice?
I certainly appreciate the gentleman and his issues and concerns, but I would like to lay this amendment on the table.
That is the motion. The clerk will open up the machines. The members will vote.
Vote yes.
Vote yes to table, vote no to pass the amendment. All right, the motion's been tabled.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Representative England, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. Will gentleman yield?
Yes.
Again, I've been reading the bill and I'm trying to figure out, so does this offer more or less like a presumption of correctness to the federal regulation that whatever rule that they've adopted is based on?
I don't know that it is a presumption that they are correct. I think there is an expectation that states, all 50 states, initially accept federal law, and those laws, as I've mentioned, a few of them, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, those are in place, and those have been applied in the state of Alabama since their existence.
So is this more directed at controlling the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, so to speak?
I don't know.
You talk about out of control government and stuff like that. Are you talking about ADM?
I am talking specifically about regulations, whether it's, I mean, in this particular bill, we are talking about environmental issues, but me, philosophically, I believe in limited government. So, but to answer your question, I am not casting any judgment on ADM in its current form, but what I am doing is I'm being a representative that is observant of what is happening throughout the country. And my constituents, along with many of ours, are primarily concerned with cost of living. I think that is the highest polled issue in the state and the country. And regulations drive cost of living. And I unfortunately, if you'll allow me just 20 seconds, over the last 2 weeks, I've been called every name there is. And it's really unfortunate that we live in a society that when someone, I'm not a bad person. I really don't want chemicals or any of those other things. But what I do want is to be reasonable, to be predictable, and to not move the goalposts.
Okay. All that sounds good, but I'm just trying to figure out, because this is almost like, it's bizarre to me, because the last thing that I thought I would hear from anybody in this current version of the legislature is the presumption should be that we follow federal law, federal regulation, and that be the controlling floor for a state agency. It almost kind of flips the concept of the 10th Amendment kind of upside down in terms of states' rights, which is interesting. Because, I mean, for most of the legislative session that I've been here, especially these last 4 years, it's been almost the exact opposite. I find that odd.
Yeah.
But, hey,
Well, we've seen states like California and Illinois use their state rights to overregulate virtually every step of someone's life, which then results.
Whoa. You said use states' rights to overrun their citizenry? I mean, we were one of the first people to eliminate a woman's right to choose.
To burden.
We may not want to dig into that.
Would you like an example, or
I mean,
I don't want to
again,
take your time.
I'm all, and listen, I'm more or less a states' rights guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when it comes to situations where, if just the way this legislation reads, it's almost like turning the Alabama citizens into a petri dish, because it actually increases the threshold that you have to cross in order for the Alabama Department of Environmental Management to say that this particular practice or this particular chemical or something is more, it's having a more negative impact on our citizenry. Because what we really want is for our environmental agency to be nimble, to be quick, to be able to identify a dangerous situation or a chemical that may be, may not have shown any other, we may have more, it's creating more of a problem for us than it is for any other place in the country. We may discover something that, we may need to move a little bit quicker on, and our ADEM needs to be able to regulate quickly versus the rest of the country. And my reading of this, it tells me that they wouldn't necessarily be able to respond in that way. And I'll tell you, one of the things that really concerns me is your definition of manifest bodily harm, right? A physical disease or injury that is presently existing and diagnosable, not based solely on the presence or detection of a substance in the human body, and not based solely on an increased risk of disease. Do you see how wide of a threshold that could potentially be? Because it's almost like there actually has to be people getting sick at a very high and rapid rate before the department, for ADEM to be able to respond to that. And I think if there was a way to, and I'm not offering any amendments, but just in terms of reading that, it almost appears that people would have to be, and I'm not talking about just a few, I'm talking about actually getting sick from a substance that may be saturated in soil or water or something before the department can respond to it.
Well, I think that one of those three criteria, not based solely on an increased risk of disease, I would submit that we all partake of things every day that increase our risk of disease. So to say that we can pass a regulation based on a risk of disease would result in regulations constantly. I think you would agree. I mean, whatever we had for lunch could be a risk of disease.
But no, but that's you. With the way the statute, your proposed statute reads, you can't read that in isolation. It's an and in that, so it has to be all three. So not just one, it has to be all three.
Right.
So that means in order for, we'll just say the department to be able to promulgate a rule or regulation,
Right.
it would have to be one, presently existing and diagnosable first. Second, it would have to be not based solely on the presence or detection of a substance in the human body, and not based solely on an increased risk of disease. So you can't analyze it from the third prong of the test. You have to satisfy all three, which means it substantially increases where you have to go in order to enact some sort of rule regulation. And again, you said it best when you started that this isn't necessarily about regulating the environment as much as it is creating a business-friendly environment. And when the department of, when any agency can't react quickly, can't be nimble, what you've created essentially is that we are test subjects, we are a petri dish for businesses to do as they will until they kill people.
Well, I would argue that point in that, one, you're using the word business, but this bill is important to farmers, who I would submit are some of the strongest environmentalists that we have.
Now you cannot parcel out one agency. You can't parcel
And I would
out one
also
part of
submit,
it's all of them.
Well, I would also submit that a business, an industry, is more concerned with public image than they are with a fine. So they
Actually,
I think 30 or 40 years ago.
Before you go there,
okay,
a business is more interested in how far they can go before being discovered than they are interested in actually protecting the environment around them.
Well,
We've run into that. We've run into that across the board, across the country.
We spend a lot of time vilifying businesses in here.
I'm not vilifying.
The gentleman's time is up. The chair recognizes Representative Clark from Mobile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to me earlier today about this bill, Representative Stubbs.
I appreciate the time.
I'll be brief. In looking back over the bill, it seems to me that there's no reason to apply this law to all state agencies because it's all about environmental regulations. Is that correct?
It is specifically focused on that, yes.
So then would this law impact our Department of Health?
It could potentially secondarily, I think, because there are things that ADEM and the Department of Health likely work in conjunction with.
Would it impact our Department of Agriculture? And if so, how would it impact those two particular departments in particular?
How would it impact those two departments? Department of Health and Department of Agriculture?
Yes, Representative Stubbs.
Well, this bill specifically refers to environmental matters, as it states in the beginning of the bill, which, let me get to that first line there. Establishes standards for certain environmental protection subjects. So this bill specifically focuses in those areas. So I can't speak for certain whether those agencies would have things related targeted specifically at environmental subjects, but if they did, then this would apply.
And so I agree with you, and therefore I bring an amendment.
The clerk will receive the amendment.
Amendment 2, Senate Bill number 71 by Representative Clark.
Please explain the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so on page 5 of the bill, it says that this section does not apply to any of the following, and it lists 5 different exceptions there. And I think we ought to add a 5th one. And so my amendment would replace on line 145 on page 6 with the following: 41-22-5, Code of Alabama 1975, and number 5, a rule of the Department of Agriculture and Industries or of the Alabama Department of Public Health.
Sponsor, is this a friendly?
I would like to table the amendment.
That is the question. To table the amendment, vote aye. To not table the amendment, vote nay. Clerk will unlock the
Please vote
machine.
no.
Members will vote.
Please vote yes.
Clerk will lock the machines. The amendment fails.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Representative Gavan, you're recognized.
Subs. It's so many. Y'all Republicans rotate in and out so much during the end of the quadrennium. I can't remember all the names. I have to sometimes get the confirmation. Now, I wasn't going to get up here, but this has brought me to a moment of intrigue. First of all, Crawford gets up and does his campaign speech drill on you, and then a couple other folks stood up, and I'm saying to myself, those bills that I don't have time to treat, and then I let y'all Republicans fight it out. Every now and then, it's good to watch y'all. Y'all have had a lot of fighting going on these last few days. And so with that being said, that SB 392 was a debacle. Bad debacle. Bad debacle. And as you mentioned, the folks have mounted up on you. You've gotten received a lot of criticism.
And love.
But you received more criticism
Yeah,
than
it's
love.
Valentine's
But
weekend,
your colleague came up and tried to give you a cue card and say, "Now, look, do you really want to bring this bill?" And you have opposition.
Do I have opposition? I do not.
You don't. Okay, so I guess that's why he was almost shading you. And so like I said, with that, you're not concerned about the folks mounting up, but they mounted up on y'all about that PSC bill. I mean, they have all kind of Facebook pages and Instagram posts.
I wouldn't know about any of
And
that.
T-shirt. You don't have Instagram. You don't have Facebook.
I try to avoid all social media.
But you might try to avoid it, but you heard about it. I can tell you that. You heard it because every news media outlet in the state of Alabama covered it. So I know you heard about it. You heard the recordings. It's something about those recordings, though.
I was out of town over the weekend.
You were.
Yeah.
Let's keep the discussion germane to the bill, please.
It is germane. He said he received a lot of criticism, and I'm talking about criticism. It's germane.
And I also said love.
Love, okay, but
Criticism and love.
But did the love outweigh the criticism? Because I'm trying to get down to the bottom of the bill and what the level of consternation is regarding this bill. And every time I walk to the microphone, it's germane. So it's just how I get there. So with that being said, because you said you received a lot of criticism, it sparked my interest. Because first of all, I don't know much about you. I don't even know if I've ever objected to a bill that you brought. I can't really even remember a bill that you brought.
There have been a few. I'm sure you supported them.
You think I did? Yeah. If they made sense, I did.
It all makes sense.
No, they don't, because this one doesn't. They any to me, but you know, I'm not a simple kind of girl. My mama told me once before when I was growing up. Some things, if you can understand, it would make you simple. But I don't understand this bill, and I'm being, all jokes aside, I don't. Because I'm hearing on one end, first of all, I don't see where ADM here would do anything to supersede the EPA. Now, I'm not saying that they are the best department here in the state of Alabama, but I've been given calls over the years to work with them. And ADM has been one of the most consistent, the most thorough departments here in the state of Alabama. And for me to say that, because I don't throw around compliments, I do not see them or anyone who heads that administration to do anything that would supersede that of the Environmental Protection Agency. As a matter of fact, they've worked in tandem over the years, and especially in the Birmingham area where we've had so many issues and environmental issues, and especially certain parts, Representative Moore's district in particular, and other areas. So help me to understand exactly what this bill does. And I did start off, and I meant what I said. There have been a lot of foolery going on around this State House in the last few weeks. Folks saying they're not supporting some, saying it's one thing but not another. Lobbyists all on the phone, being a big shot. Same one that just a few months ago I had a situation with on the phone. But touch not God's anointed and do his prophet is no harm. Because I went into prayer then. So when I got the message, I said, thank you, Jesus. I don't have to fight you. God will fight your battles. And that was intentional. So with that being said, help me to understand what what ADM can do or would do that you think they would do that would supersede the EPA. That's all I'm trying to get to.
Well, I would not
Give me an
expect,
example.
and I agree with you that ADM does a good job and that there's not any issues currently with that. But what we do know is that we are seeing these types of regulatory issues come up in other states which are starting to impact businesses in Alabama, because if you're making a financial decision, whether you're a farmer determining what crop you want to plant next year, or if you're a business determining if you want to invest money to build a manufacturing plant in the state of Alabama, you want to know that the regulations that exist are in place and are consistent and stable.
So give me an example. I'm just trying. This is not my dog to fight. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just trying to get to a for example.
Okay. Well, I will give you a for example that is currently happening in the United States within the last...
I want you to tell me in Alabama. I want to talk about Alabama.
Okay. Well, I can pontificate and provide hyperbole, but I would say that if
I just want you to provide me facts. Now, you know I'm a wordsmith. I'm one of the biggest wordsmiths in here now. And we don't want to go into the wordsmith thing. Because
here are facts.
Yeah, give me the FACTS.
If ADM were to change the requirements for farmers related to fertilizer, for example.
Okay.
Then, if they were to change it 1 year, and then the next year they changed it again, and the next year they changed it again, then how would we or a farmer be able to plan moving forward on crop planting, use of their land?
It's happening to farmers. Now,
Is it happening to farmers?
This is not an alpha bill, is it? It's this.
They are very supportive of this bill.
Okay, well, you know what? My answer on this is definitely a no, for sure at this point.
All right.
Yeah, and you know, I support farmers, and as a matter of fact, I have a flyer that says my record is solid gold.
I thought I had you.
Up until this year.
No?
No, not when I found that out. Ain't no way in the world.
Man, I was close.
One of my first bills I came in here, David Cole asked me to give my word. At that time, we still had cloture. I've stood with Alpha then. Stood with them all the way up until this day. voted with them even when I didn't want to vote with them. So yeah. So with that being said, the bottom line is, so this is for farmers,
It's not limited to that.
not limited to, but there are obviously issues going on in the farm industry. I support who supports me. So at the end of the day, even 4 years ago, when one of my opponents, they was supported, had a DUI and was arrested for marijuana. They pulled their endorsement of him. See, I don't do it in the dark. I talk about it in the light. So at the end of the day, listen, I just wanted to get the clarity on it, find out what this bill does and what it does not do, and this, that, and the other. And ask the question. Because I was told a few months ago, I asked a question about a bill. I don't come down here to sit in a chair and to be a seat warmer, and I'm going to ask questions when I get down here and get up to this microphone. That's what the people elected me to do, and that's what they're going to re-elect me to do.
You do a good
Without
job.
the fake and the phony. So I got that. I'm glad you shined a little light for me. I appreciate it.
The chair would like to take a moment to recognize some special guests in the gallery. We have Commissioner Billy Joe Underwood, who is the guest of the Baldwin County Commissioners. Commissioner Underwood, are you still here? By the Baldwin County delegation. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Glenn and Patsy Keel, the parents of Jamie Keel, up in the gallery. The chair would like to recognize Representative Drummond from Mobile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been sitting, sir, thank you, will you yield? I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
I've been sitting there very, very patiently listening to all of the debate. I have a couple of questions, and then I'll go into others. Why are we doing this bill? Are we doing this just for agriculture?
No, ma'am. This bill is supported by manufacturers.
No, I don't want to know who it's supported by.
It's for industry.
Why are we doing it?
Industry, business, agriculture, all of those different entities that rely on consistency and stability in the regulatory framework by which they are governed.
Did this bill start in the state of Alabama, not nationally, but the state of Alabama?
This bill?
Yes.
There are similar bills in other states, but
Where did it start here in the state of Alabama? I don't care about the rest of the country.
Where
I
did
just
it
want
start?
to know about Alabama.
It started with industry.
With industry. So this is an industry bill.
Well,
Is that what I'm hearing you
well,
say?
you asked at the beginning if it was an agriculture bill.
Is it an industry bill? And you
Not
started
limited
with
to that.
manufacturing and
Not
all of
limited
those.
to industry, but yes.
Well, let me ask you this question because, and I am more on the environmental side, and I'm in South Alabama where we have water, air, and everything. And I am probably more concerned about the rights of the individuals. Would you not say that Alabama is a state where we defend our rights?
Absolutely.
And you say this is limited government, right? Didn't you say that this is limited government? Right?
I would say yes, this does limit state government.
Would you not also agree that I, as a citizen, a proud citizen of the state of Alabama, Would you not agree that I have rights?
Absolutely.
Would you not agree one of those rights is to have clean air, safe drinking water, and all of the above? Would you not say that?
Absolutely.
Would you not agree that somebody in the state of Alabama has to regulate all of that? Because what you think may be safe, I may disagree. But there's an agency, whether it's public health or ADEM, there is an agency that we have given the rights to be able to regulate those things so that we all will have a right to good air, to safe drinking water. Would you not agree with all of those things?
Absolutely.
Now, you know that I am one of these individuals that believe in the rights of all. Now, I know for a fact, I have no science to prove this, but I know of people where a whole family have died of different types of cancer. Do you not think that they have a right to have a safe life and to be able to live and have the pursuit of happiness?
Absolutely.
And if ADEM, if some of their regulations are taken away and their rights are going to be contaminated, don't you think that's wrong?
Well, I think that ADEM, currently applies the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, which, interesting you say, I studied over the weekend. In some reports I saw, Alabama's in the top 5 in drinking water in the country. And that's not based on ADEM's regulation.
It's
that is
EPA.
based on the application of the EPA, which we are still complying with fully.
But what you would also say, it is based on federal regulations, but you would also say that states have a right as well, correct? The application of the law.
Correct.
Right?
And this bill still allows for ADEM to apply federal government
How would you
federal law.
define that this bill would allow when you just said earlier, I sit back there, I wasn't talking, I was listening.
Yeah.
When you sat there and said, we're going to, if it's not based on science, ADEM, we're going to pull back some of those regulations that are hampering. You've been using, ever since I've heard you down here, you hadn't said industry, you talked about agriculture. I am a person, as you can see, I love to eat. I want safe water. I want even good eggs to eat. I want all of those things to be safe. So do you, or is this bill seems to me that you're going to have someone regulating themselves, not the people who should be vested in doing so, that you're pulling back some of our, and I'm just sorry, I'm not convinced. I don't think this is a bill looking for a problem. I'm just trying to figure out, why are we doing it in the state of Alabama? Have there been some missteps? Or somebody had to pay another $1 to make sure my water was clean or the air?
No, I think that we in the state of Alabama have and will continue to apply and enforce the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and other EPA regulations. Where this bill provides the avenue by which ADEM can act.
Have you, in all of your research this weekend, did you even look at the rate of cancer that is in the state of Alabama? I'm not talking about all over the nation. The state of Alabama, and I'll use cancer.
I can't say that I looked up specific statistics,
Would
and
you
I
not
also
say that has some sort of correlation with the air, the water, the food we consume?
I think it's important to note that myself and everyone in this room can relate to specific issues where someone has passed away.
Would you not agree that there's a correlation?
But
we don't have a cure, but there's a correlation.
But that argument can't only be used on one side.
But
other.
Let me just listen to me. I understand what you're saying, but would you not say that it would be much more I guess it would be much more amenable to those persons who would contract cancer or whatever if we had more safeguards rather than less.
Potentially, however, this bill, you know, there's a lot of conversation and what I view as there's a lot of concern related
How do you
that I don't.
define, well, this bill, how do you define less government if you don't think that you're taking some regulatory duties from somebody to look at air, water, and all of those things?
We're not taking away regulatory duties. ADEM still functions as it has been. What we're saying is any future issue that's unique to Alabama, a particular issue in a particular region that may be of great concern, ADEM, if there is not a federal regulation in place related to that, ADEM can act. But we're going to ensure that ADEM, when they act, it's based on sound science principles.
Would you not say that even EPA doesn't understand Alabama as well as ADEM, who is here, who is located here, who knows the environment here? That's what they're charged with. Would you not say that they're more of an expert, not on the country, but on the state of Alabama?
Absolutely. And if there are issues that are not
But how would you
regulated by
define those issues if you're pulling back some of their power to do so?
whose power?
ADEM.
We're actually providing a framework for them to act.
I disagree with you that because you talked about, when you talk about limited government, you're talking about taking something away. You're not talking about giving them more duties or even bolstering the duties that they now have.
We're limiting government in the sense that we are not going to become an overregulated state. But that statement is
So we're
not mutually...
overregulated now?
We are not going to become...
Are we overregulated now?
In some areas, I would submit probably so.
So what areas, and I'll come back because my time's run out, what areas we're not overregulated in?
Where we're not overregulated?
The representative time is up.
Said in some areas.
Representative Rafferty of Jefferson, you're recognized.
All right, thank you for the recognition. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Okay, so first and foremost, I know that this bill has been largely kind of marketed, right, kind of pushed out there as a quote unquote sound science bill, correct?
I think that's
kind of pushed to me.
it's a safe description, yeah.
Sound science. Okay, so honestly, that sounds pretty good, right? So we want to talk about sound science. That there's some definitions in here that are definitely would indeed be sound science. So you're using peer-reviewed research. It means your data is reliable and reproducible, testable, falsifiable, right? It means qualified experts have evaluated the methodology and signed off on it. It means that you're looking at a full body of evidence, right? You're not just cherry-picking one study here or there and drawing conclusions based on the weight of that evidence. So, Representative, would you agree that that is a fair description of what sound science would look like?
I would think so. I am not a scientist, full
Right.
disclosure.
Well, that does kind of lead my next question. How many scientists have you actually consulted with in trying to develop and kind of come up with this bill here?
In terms of those descriptors?
Scientists, researchers. You said industry's been kind of pushing it big time, but how many scientists or researchers, particularly here in Alabama, again, if we want to talk about our research at the vet school, the agriculture school in Auburn, we're up at UAB with public health and School of Medicine, School of Health Professions. Have you talked or discussed with any of the things
Well,
I
can't-
on the ground with people here on the ground
Right.
researching some of these very topics?
Yeah, I cannot say that I have contacted those individuals. I can also say that none of them have contacted me with concerns about this bill. The only concerns I've received are...
You can imagine why, right?
Well,
we keep threatening to like break up schools and all this other kind of stuff here too.
well,
we do control their funding as well. So, I mean, let's be
I
real
can't
there.
speak to
So
whether
we can understand
they
why they perhaps did not come. So that's why I would, kind of expect you coming with a sound science bill that do your due diligence and bring that.
Well, I think I've done a really good job of that.
So I think we do agree on what sound science looks like, but I do want to start with the definition of how you have best available science, right? So in this bill, it lists 3 types of studies that may qualify, right? Site-specific studies, no problem there, okay? Refereed journals, also no problem there. And peer-reviewed studies in federal government reports, no problem there. But there's a big modifier there that's a pretty important one, particularly when we talk about how the state and how our agencies are able to draft science-based, data-driven policy to help protect our citizens and our environment here. So, and that modifier deals with, but only if those reports were published for a purpose other than developing a rule. Now, why would you publish something without having a purpose for it? So I'm kind of confused. Can you explain what that language there means to you?
Well, I think that the federal government
federal government being what? Like the researchers that they give grants out to, that they're able to kind of
they
research
commission all
these
kinds of
independently, without industry funding, without big pharma funding telling them how
Well,
to
there's
do.
a lot of really interesting studies that have been done over the last 4 or 5 years.
I know, I've seen the Facebook memes too. But
I don't go on Facebook. I haven't seen it.
Lucky you. Shoot. So, but I'm sorry, I did cut you off there. I didn't mean
No, I keep telling my wife I don't like Facebook, so I wanted to publicly say that so that.
Yeah, right. No, social media is a
danger.
It's a double-edged sword, right? There's
Okay,
a lot going
I
on
agree
there.
with that.
All right, so let's continue on here, though. But what I think this does is that does this mean that if the federal government produces a peer-reviewed study, specifically to figure out whether a substance is dangerous, that Alabama cannot use it to help guide science-based policy to help keep our citizens safe?
Well, the federal government commissions studies for various purposes.
I want to know if there is a federal government publishes a study that produces a peer-reviewed study specifically to figure out whether a substance is dangerous, that Alabama cannot use this in crafting public policy.
They cannot use that study if it was created for the purpose to create a rule.
Right. So if it was with the purpose of guiding a rule or guiding state agencies who are better on the ground and better suited to kind of deal with some of these issues, it would not be we wouldn't be able to use it to craft to craft better science-based policy to help keep our citizens and our families safe.
Our objective is to try to get independent studies that aren't pushed by any
There's
agenda
nothing
one way or
restricting
the
that
other.
independent studies. They should be able to weigh in, and that should be part of how this is taken into account. But you are specifically with this language right here, you are saying that they cannot be part of that discussion, that they cannot be part of that at all, correct?
With federal government reports.
With a federal government report based off of a peer-reviewed study that they then publish the results dealing with a particular substance to help guide agencies and boards. By the way, the statute that we looked up for agency does include boards, okay? So
I would
that they
submit
cannot
there's
use that to drive science-based policy, science-based rules, no mandates. I'm talking about influence. I'm talking about them being able to say, hey, you might have some issues with this one. That we've got to totally disregard that. We got to go look over here to other rules and that kind of thing, and to other studies that might be out there.
Well,
Know what you're saying?
there's a long list of different types of studies that can be used.
Yeah, there's three
with this.
specific ones that are under your definitions in section 1A, right? Yeah.
Section C involves the use of
Section 1C.
scientifically defensible,
Yeah.
quality assured, supporting, etc.
Well, it's the best available science definition, I believe, is what
Right.
that falls under, correct? So My problem, okay, obviously, is that Alabama, so if a federal government does a study, peer-reviewed, sound science by any definition, other than that little clause up there that's in there, that's not sound science. Alabama's agencies can't rely on it, can't use it, and can't use it to draft public policy to help preserve and maintain human health, right? That's what that means, okay? So, what I want to say is that that is not sound science, right? That's picking what science can be used based off of why it was done and not whether it was done correctly. You understand there's a big concern at this point with that. We've heard a lot of words certainty here today. Kind of running out of time, so. And I just feel like this bill gives certainty to people who are being regulated. It might give some certainty to people but it certainly wouldn't give certainty to the people who live next to them, right? To the families here. What I'm seeing this bill ultimately do is that it doesn't do anything to protect the people who might be affected by any sort of pollution or contaminants here in the state. It doesn't have it. What it really does is you define sound science, which is fascinating. That's what I found so fascinating about this bill, is that you're actually using sound science and defining sound science just to gut our ability to use it to drive science-based and data-driven policy to help protect human health. Now, you kept talking about the environment, and I hear that too, but when we start talking about the definition and manifest bodily harm, we are also discussing human health here as well. Taking away the risk for ability to be able to make rules to protect human health based off of a risk. What is the justification for that?
Well, we're not taking away the ability to regulate or to pass any type of regulations related to human health. This is not taking...
Yeah, we are. Yeah, because when you define manifest bodily harm, you specifically say that it can't be based solely on an increased risk of disease, right?
Right. Well,
so what would be some of the qualifiers on that one that you have to use?
Well, I think you would agree that we can identify risk of disease in virtually anything that we do.
All right. Well, I got some other concerns about that. If I have time to come back down, I don't know. But thank you for the debate, and thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes. All right.
Thank you. Representative Lange, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I have to say, it feels really good to say that. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you. I got to spend some time with my husband yesterday taking a hike, and while we were out in the beauty that is this wonderful state of Alabama, I had this bill on my mind. And especially, I've received so much mail from constituents about this, and I know many of you have too. And I have a couple questions and then an amendment. But Alabama has so much tremendous resources. We have I'm not a scientist either, but
we're one of the most biodiverse states in the United States.
We have so much to offer, and we have it all. We have rivers, and we have mountains, and we have the ocean, and so much to be proud of, so much that truly is precious. And I want us to protect what's precious here. And that includes not just the beauty that we find in nature, but also human life. And I'll talk to that a minute too. But my understanding, and I have to say the bill is confusing, and many bills are, so I was trying to really wade my way through it and be thoughtful about what the bill is attempting to do, which I don't totally understand. But it would prohibit us from doing anything other than what is said at the federal level.
If the federal government addresses that particular environmental issue. So we recognize, as you stated, the state is very diverse, and we have lots of different things that other states don't have. So there may be issues that arise in Alabama that the federal government has not contemplated, has not considered, has not addressed. And so this bill provides a framework by which, in those circumstances, if ADEM chose to act, then they have the ability to do that. There is no restriction on them being able to move forward with that if the federal government has not addressed that issue. So there is an opportunity there for the state, and this sets the framework by which they can move forward with those regulations.
Okay, but what the federal regulation is attempting to do is really set that floor and nothing more than that.
Correct.
And
In,
we're
in
prohibited.
issues that they have addressed, yes.
And we're prohibited from doing anything beyond that unless somehow there's a trigger.
Yes, well, there is a clause in here for emergency rules. So in the event of an emergency, obviously, this bill becomes obsolete with respect to ADEM could act quickly and efficiently in the event of an emergency based on statute.
So what constitutes an emergency?
Well, it's defined in...
But does a person actually have to have cancer before we would declare an emergency? Because we know that's happening already.
No, there are specific criteria by which rules are made, and we know that the federal government has some rules with, certain larger items like the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, coal issues, which I know you may experience in your part of the state with the coal residue and how those things are regulated, all by EPA, and ADEM is the enforcement arm, if you will, of those particular issues. But there is no specific requirement of cancer per se. That is a contributing factor by which the studies would be developed and then decisions would be made.
But I guess, and I keep coming back to that actual harm clause that's there. And I'm also concerned about maternal and infant mortality in this state. We are at the bottom in those numbers, and I have concerns that the requirement that the regulation addresses saying manifest bodily harm rather than risk. How would we respond to that kind of evidence?
Well, I agree with you that it is disheartening that we have such a high infant mortality rate. I have 4 children of my own, and that is certainly a challenge. I would submit that there may be instances where environmental factors contribute to that, but I think that there are a lot of other factors that contribute to that than to isolate this particular matter. So the issues related to the environment that ADEM is currently enforcing, the laws that are currently enforced, both state and federal, I don't know of any correlation or connection above and beyond the federal EPA regulations that would change those circumstances.
Well, I think there are, and my own family is an example of that. When I was a teenager, we moved to a new neighborhood, and we lived on a street that was going up a hill or a mountain, at the foot of the mountain, and there were about 15 houses in that neighborhood, and of those 15 families, 4 of the children were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. One of them was my brother. And there are many other cases like this where we may not know what the cause, but we know that there had to be something that was common to all those involved. And again, I come back to health over and over with this. We're also in Alabama, we're the 3rd worst in longevity. So we are not a healthy state. We are a beautiful state, but we are not a healthy state. And I feel like that we need to really be thoughtful about this legislation. We need to put Alabamians first and foremost in our minds. And I know that I have received a lot from my constituents on this particular issue, not just environmental groups, but those are important to me too, especially because of all we have to offer here in this state. And there's a tourism aspect to keeping all of that here for all of us and those who come to visit. But I want us to put Alabamians first. I want us to put health first for a change. I think that's been lacking in a lot of what we do in this body. We need to put our people first. Thank you. Oh, and I have an amendment.
Okay.
So, with that, I have an amendment.
The clerk will receive the amendment.
Amendment 2, Senate Bill number 71 by Representative Lands.
Please
So
explain
this
your amendment.
This amendment simply clarifies that when a substance has already been classified by the EPA or the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a known probable human carcinogen, reducing exposure to that substance qualifies as preventing harm under this bill. Cancer prevention does not begin at diagnosis. It begins with reducing exposure before disease develops. This amendment is narrowly tailored to carcinogens recognized by established specific authorities, including those associated with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It does not expand regulatory authority. It clarifies that preventing cancer counts as preventing harm.
I
hope you'll
I think I received a copy of this earlier. Is that?
Yes.
I'm assuming this is the same one. Is that
It is
correct?
the same. Would you like me to read the amendment?
No, I have it here. I was making sure it was the same. That was
It is the
addressed earlier.
same, and I hope you'll accept it as friendly.
Well, I certainly appreciate the amendment and the thought behind it, but I would like to table the amendment.
All right, the motion is to table the amendment. Yes to table, no to accept. Will the clerk unlock the machines and the members will vote?
Oh, yes.
Yes to table, no to accept. Have all the members voted? The amendment has been tabled.
Thank you.
Representative Moore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A representative,
Yes.
what it sounds like I've heard is that you don't think that the regulations that have been put in place that these different groups have to go by were founded upon sound data.
I would say that that's not necessarily the case in its current form.
Because let me say this, you keep saying there is no consistency or stability in the regulations that have been made. And I differ with you because no matter what agency you go through, if a regulation has been put in place that deals with anything that's dealing with environmental studies, and I think I was here before, and someone I was talking about ADM and the Army Corps of Engineers. I live in one of those areas where we've had to do numerous studies in order to get both Washington and ADM to come up with a regulation for people's health's sake. But the more I listen at you and the people that have come up here, it seems as though you just don't, or somebody, whoever crafted the bill, want to say that everything should be wide open. And businesses and that would practice putting chemicals in the air as a result of a byproduct of their manufacturing, or for some other reasons. I know for years we had one in major creeks that ran through the city of Birmingham. And prior to me being born, it was clean water. Then as industry developed in the city of Birmingham, they started letting people dump into those creeks and streams. Now then, when the different agencies, the health department and EPA was finally put into place where we could allow them to study cause and effect to justify many of the illnesses that the people in my community had, it was a direct impact from the waste that was being dumped in those streams from the different manufacturing companies all along the stream. So that, we need to always have regulations, and I don't think each state should be alone to develop as they saw fit. I do believe that whatever we get from EPA and from other national agencies have been studied. And they've been studied enough with enough people, and not only animals, like I heard you mention here, but a lot of times, and I worked at the VA, a lot of times the things that we could turn over to the health department is because after we've seen so many patients that exhibit the same signs and symptoms, and we did enough testing that we could justify and say, well, this is the causative factor of them having these signs and symptoms. So it's a lot of research that does go into things, but to say that we should be able to come back and create something based on no actual facts seems to be a problem. And I don't know if I'm reading that right from you.
Well, I totally agree with you that our country went through many years of very poor environmental management. We had disastrous issues with chemicals going in rivers, et
But
cetera.
that was not environmental management until they came up with the EPA. And the reason they came up with the EPA, because as major industries during the Industrial Revolution had popped up and was still manufacturing. And then you could see the illnesses. You could see the people that had cancer. You could see the people and the heart conditions they had. You could see the impact that was being had on children that was born. For instance, like in my area, we have more, even though most of the companies have shut down now, but many of the teenagers and children that are, and people who are older are asthmatic, or they had heart conditions, or they had some form of cancer. They even go, and that is why the EPA had to be put in some national organization, because the states weren't going to do it, because the states receiving tax dollars from these industries, they had no incentive to put in place anything to monitor what was going on. And I know, like with us, with the stream the creek that runs through North Birmingham, when the companies had dumped so much into them, we had a major polio outbreak. And many of my classmates and children that was older than me ended up with polio. And it came from the testing of the water, that the polio virus came directly from that water. So I was just listening and reading your bill, and it seemed as though that somewhere along the line, I don't know who, want us to continue to deregulate what is out there, and and I don't think that needs to happen.
Well, I think that the EPA and its creation, as you stated, this bill's, all of those regulations, the Clean Water Act, those are all still in place, and we still follow all of those.
But it's not only clean water, it's the air.
Clean air.
The biggest problem, and then the minerals. Not only do we have air problems in our area, but we have soil contamination. We have people that have collected the dust particles from the manufacturing companies that have settled in the attics of their houses, and they're breathing all the particles. One of the companies early on in the early 80s, we realized was releasing radioactive chromium into the air as a byproduct of the steel manufacturing company. So it's a lot of factors. And I heard you talking about it's not just Clean Water Act, but it's a combination of everything. And we have to have regulation, whether it's a farmer, the type of fertilizer the farmer uses, the type of whatever chemicals they use to make sure that their animals would appear to be healthy, but the impact of those same chemicals when you add heat to the meat product can cause other illness in people who eat the meat. So it's a combination of all of them that we have to be concerned about, and we can't allow it to be just a state by state by state thing. It needs to be on a national level. I think last week when we were talking about children's safety, and I asked, wouldn't it be better if all of the states who want to piecemeal and act on children's safety, that they all work and let it make a national law, that we all would be covered and it would be something that everybody is reading the same thing rather than each state coming up with something different that might have some gray areas where you might interpret it one way and I might interpret it another way. So I think that's the level of consistency. I heard you talk about there's no consistency, but there is consistency. In all the regulations that we have, if you do more than just a weekend study, you can find out that there's a lot of consistency and that test data that have come from various states at some point is all put together and is viewed to see what similar criteria that they get from each state, and then they take that to come up with a regulation to govern all the people that might be in a certain area or a profession that we're trying to regulate.
Well, I think we agree a lot more than you think. This bill follows EPA. What this bill does is if the federal government does not.
But there's no such thing if. Because if the federal government don't do it, the state's certainly not going to do it. And
Well,
you go back historically.
We have the ability to do it.
Yeah,
in
but you
this
don't
bill.
need it. Because when you go back historically, the way we got the majority of our regulations came from the federal government, because in most cases, when you look historically, the states had no interest or incentives because the big businesses paid taxes, the big businesses had influence. So states had no reasons to come up with regulation, but from one administration to another administration, when they start seeing on a national level, from state to state to state with similar industries, that there are these same concerns pop
Representative,
up.
your time is up. I'd like to call on Representative McCampbell from Marengo County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Sellers from Jefferson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
So I rise today not in opposition to business, not in opposition to jobs, not in opposition to economic development, but I rise in defense of something much more basic: Alabama's right to protect Alabama people. And so this bill changes a basic principle of public safety. So for decades, environmental law in this country has followed simple idea. You don't wait for people to get sick before you act. You prevent the harm. SB 71 reverses that principle. And under this bill, our state agencies cannot act when science shows danger. They must wait until harm is proven, until exposure becomes illness, until families become patients. That is not prevention, that is reaction. And public safety laws should never be written to react to tragedy instead of preventing it. Federal standards were never meant to be the maximum. Federal environmental standards were created as a minimum floor, not a ceiling. They are written to apply to deserts and mountains and rural farmland and heavily industrial urban communities. But Alabama has its own geography, its own industries, and its own environmental realities. SB 71 says no matter what conditions exist here, no matter what a community faces, our state cannot act stronger than Washington. So members, we are the Alabama legislature. We should not be voting to give away Alabama's authority to protect Alabama citizens. And this bill ties the hands of local problem solving. And so when contamination occurs, it rarely looks the same everywhere. Different soils, different waterways, different exposure levels, different neighborhoods. And right now, our regulators can respond to local conditions. This bill removes that flexibility. It replaces local judgment with a one-size-fits-all national number. And a number written for the average situation is often wrong for the specific situation. So the burden of proof becomes dangerously high. The bill requires proof of manifest bodily harm. And think about what that means in real life. Not increased cancer risk, not toxic exposure levels, not scientific probability, but actual injury. So in other words, people have to suffer first. And government's first responsibility is protection. We require seatbelts before crashes. We inspect bridges before collapse. We regulate food before poisoning. But we do not wait for funerals before action. This is not a pro-business versus anti-business vote. We all want jobs, but businesses also benefit from clear trust and safe communities. Strong economies are built where families want to live, where water is safe, where air is breathable, and where parents feel secure raising children. Economic development and public health are partners, not enemies. So the precedent matters. If we pass this bill, we establish a dangerous principle that Alabama cannot protect its citizens beyond federal minimums, even when our own evidence shows that we should. So today, it is environmental protection. Tomorrow, it could be workplace safety, consumer protection, or public health standards. We should never vote to permanently lower our own authority to govern ourselves. Members, this is a question of responsibility, not ideology, not politics, not industry versus environment. It is whether Alabama retains the ability to act when Alabamians face risk. This bill does not just limit regulation, it limits protection. And I cannot support legislation that tells our state, you may only act after harm is done. And I respectfully ask for a no vote.
Representative McCampbell, you're recognized from Marengo County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the recognition. Gentleman yield. Yes. You know, this bill came through our committee. It came through Ag. And I had problems with the bill then, and I still have problems with the bill. My first problem is you're here representing a business interest, and believe you me, I want to see business grow in Alabama. but I also want to know that our people are going to be safe.
And those
as
are
it
not
grows.
mutually exclusive. You can do both.
You may be able to do them both, and I agree. You and I are going to agree on that. But the problem that I guess I have is not that we can't do them both. This bill is trying to limit, and I'm sure you're going to say, no, it's not limiting anything. But it's trying to limit the agency that we have trust over all these years to make sure people are safe. You see, and I pointed this out to the sponsor of this bill in the committee. There were some people that lived under a huge power line, and nobody in their families had history of cancer. But those people started to develop in different types of cancer. And no one was really able to determine what was causing it. Now, what would happen when those people started developing this cancer? How would this bill help them? What is it in there that would help them? Because it's saying that you can't use science, to determine the problem. You can't use any science. You want to go to it? Yeah. It prohibits agencies from adopting, first of all, a new rule or amending an existing rule that establishes standards for certain environmental protection subject that are not more stringent than the federal requirements. To prohibit an agency from adopting a new rule or amending an existing rule in the absence of federal requirements, okay? Unless the rule is based on the best available science and the weight of scientific evidence.
So we do use
Now,
science.
You're saying the best available science, but if there is no science to it, you are prohibiting the study of it. You are prohibiting, okay, tell me why you aren't. You show me where you are saying now we can do that.
There's no prohibition to studying anything. Nowhere in here does it say that ADEM cannot review, study, collect data, any of those things, nor does it say anywhere in the bill that they cannot use sound science, which is defined in here with generally accepted scientific and technical practices, etc. If there is a study that exists that satisfies these requirements, being a refereed journal
All right,
or vetted peer-reviewed
let's deal with
studies.
that issue.
Okay.
If there is a study that exists, that's your statement, right?
Assuming it follows these specific criteria, because you and I know that I could find a scientist and pay him enough money to make a study that says what I want it to say. Would you agree with that? Any of us can do that.
Okay, I'll grant you that, man.
Well, I think. So what we're doing to protect Alabamians is to ensure that we are not passing regulations that are based on a unproven scientific study that does not have the basic fundamentals that you and I learned in physical science in 6th grade, using the scientific method and all of the things that we would expect, because we've become a society in some cases where if there's a scientific study that's posted on Facebook, we just believe it. And
so now Facebook is the determining thing that
you
we
can
believe.
Well,
So
we can
and you
cherry
see,
pick one word.
That's where you and I have probably a problem. It's because if Facebook is the source of all the information that you're talking about,
Well, that's
that
one
we are
example.
going to believe.
That's
You
one
know,
example. I think you would agree that if we are making decisions that protect your health and my health, then those decisions should be based on science that is defensible, that is peer reviewed, that has all of these criteria in it. If
Okay.
it does not, then I would be concerned, and I think you would be too. If you did,
Where has ADEM then failed to protect the citizens of the state of Alabama? You tell me where have they failed?
I'm not saying that ADEM has failed. What I'm saying
Okay.
is that ADEM enforces the federal government's requirements, EPA, which we all
Okay.
are familiar with.
Okay.
And they will continue to do that. What we're addressing is if there's an issue that is not addressed by the federal
So
government.
this bill then is looking for a problem that we don't even know exists.
Well, I think that the problem certainly exists.
This bill is looking for a problem here in the state of Alabama that is controlled by a majority party, and the people work for that majority party that's a part of ADEM. Now, I see you trying to find an answer to something that I guess we're trying to say somewhere in the sky, there's a big pie that we don't want coming to Alabama. Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is it is an absolute fact that the states in the United States that are the most overly regulated are the ones that the people are struggling the most, economically and in other instances. In California, in the last 2 weeks,
All right, no,
gas
I don't
prices
live
have
in
gone up.
California. Please don't take me there.
And we
I
hope
live
that we
here
don't.
in Alabama.
That's why we're passing this bill.
I live here in Alabama.
And that's why we're passing
Now,
this bill.
Alabama is overregulated. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, it sounds like you are because
Would you like to speak for me? Because
well,
you're saying
I'm
everything
just
that I'm
asking
supposed
you, is that what you are saying?
No, I'm not. I would like to speak for myself.
And,
what I am
and whenever
saying,
you say that California, that brings California here into this Alabama conversation. Leave California in California and let's talk about Alabama.
I agree. And the way that we talk about Alabama and protect Alabama is to ensure that we are not implementing regulations, over-regulating our state, which will eventually be to the detriment of the people of our state.
Should we also not be concerned about the health of the people of the state of Alabama?
As I stated earlier, those two things are not mutually exclusive. I, as the parent of 4 children, as you and all of us together, we can care about the health of the people and care about regulation. We can actually do both, and I would submit that this bill does both.
And I guess, maybe you and I are reading this bill differently. I believe we can do both, but I'm not sure this is the bill that will do it. I'm afraid this bill is exposing the people of the state of Alabama to something we really don't want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Brown of Mobile, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, I bring a motion in writing to move the previous question.
That is the question. Motion is the previous question. Vote yes is to end, or vote no to continue debate. Vote aye for the previous question. So clerk will unlock the machines and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? The clerk will lock the machine. Yes, 72, nay, 30. The previous question is passed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The opponents have 10 minutes. Representative Datcher, you're recognized.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
And good afternoon. I didn't expect to be here this long this afternoon, but I appreciate the opportunity. Can you tell me what we talked a little bit. What are your immediate goals for this legislation?
Well, I would say one primary focus is to ensure that we have a framework by which we make decisions, and two, that we provide stability and consistency in our regulatory process related to environmental concerns.
So do we work with our own in-state experts, our Department of Health here in the state, ADEM here in the state? Did they weigh in on this?
ADEM has participated in conversations on this bill.
Are they supportive of this?
ADEM is neutral, as far as I know,
So
but they have.
they're not supportive.
Well, they are neutral, but they have
Which means
participated in this process.
But they're not advocating for it.
You could ask them.
No, I'm asking you.
Well, I can't speak for them.
You spoke with them though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
throughout the process.
you cited several areas before. What places do you say are overregulated in this country? You've cited some of those.
In our country?
Yeah.
Oh, I would submit now. Am I allowed to bring in other parts of the country?
I'd love
Okay.
a robust
I just wanted to
conversation.
make sure that
Hey.
I wasn't violating anything. I would say.
No, you're the man.
A great example.
Okay.
In the last about month, there have been 2 oil refineries that have been closed in the state of California.
Okay.
Which has resulted in gas prices in California going up 40 cents in the last 2 weeks. In response to why they closed, the businesses said due to regulatory issues in the state of California.
So you're saying the economic impact is one of the things that we're concerned about.
Well, I think that trickles down to every individual person. It's not just about the business. If you or I.
So I think you've mentioned Illinois, California, Illinois, New York as places where regulation tend to be a little bit more.
Those are the ones I read about, yes.
So those are 3 of the biggest 5 state economies in America. So I don't really understand your argument because it doesn't seem to make sense because these states that you're talking about that have the largest amount of regulation are the largest economies in the United States of America.
And they're leaving. The businesses are leaving.
California's economy is about $4 billion, which is almost 50% higher than the next one, which is Texas. Then behind that,
And their state deficit is very high.
Well, we don't want to talk about deficits. So when the Republican Party has been driving up deficits beyond anything else
Alabama?
anywhere else across America. Would you not? I mean, we can look at presidential 4-year terms of presidents and who's created larger deficits, who has not. But let's stay right here on this. The states with the largest economies are the states you're complaining about. Tell me how that works.
Well, I think that the businesses that act in those states, industries, agriculture, whatever it may be, are leaving those states due to regulations, and they want to go somewhere.
California's economy is one of the fastest growing in America.
Where they want to go places.
Illinois' economy is one of the fastest growing in America.
Well,
New York's economy is one of the fastest growing in America.
Find an Alabamian that
Alabama's
wants to move
not
to
one of
those
those
places.
states currently.
Find an Alabamian that wants to move to those places.
Find an Alabamian?
That wants to move to those places.
It's not about what we're talking about the economy, those numbers. I don't.
Okay.
I love it here. My mama from here.
Right,
I
I
grew
do
up
too.
here. I'm not going anywhere for a job necessarily. I lived in another state that's growing fast, Pennsylvania. That's where I went to college. But I came back here because I love Alabama.
Yeah.
Right?
I do
And
too.
I'm here today because I love Alabama. And this is not necessarily what we need in Alabama. Let me ask you this. Regulations, are there ever a time for regulations?
Are there ever a time?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So where do we draw that line?
Where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Specifically with environmental?
I mean, overall. I mean, right
Well,
now.
we want to make sure that there is justification for the regulation.
So, for instance, when we go to a restaurant, on the wall is a health score. Those regulations guide us and inform us on whether or not we should go in there and what kind of things are happening there. Is that something that you support, or you think that's overregulated?
With regards to health scores?
Yeah.
I think that the general public would like to know that information, and that is a standard that is generally accepted.
What about seatbelts? Seatbelts save about 15,000 lives a year. But that's a regulation. Is that something that we can support?
Absolutely.
So there are time and places for regulations.
Yeah, and I have never said otherwise.
So talk to me about science, because there's some redundancy and some some real gray area in kind of what we concede to be as a science. So you,
What we
I mean,
perceive to be a science?
yeah, well, yeah,
That's one of the biggest challenges is that the perception of science doesn't always coincide with what actual science is. This bill takes the opportunity to actually define what science is, which I think is very important for all of us to have science that we can trust.
There are a couple of professors in North Alabama who have been fighting, who are like, you know, that maybe 5% of all scientists deny climate change. Two of them are in North Alabama, and they spew this nonsense all the time, and they believe they have sound science. Well, the rest of the scientific community, 19-1, is against them. So tell me how we begin to weigh and figure out whose science we accept and believe.
Well, independent science, peer-reviewed science, refereed journals, science that's defensible, science that can be replicated. Those are all fundamental principles of science that I think even the layman, myself, I'm not a scientist, I can accept and understand those principles. And I would expect my government, whether it's an agency or the federal government, to follow those specific standards. And this ensures that the state of Alabama will follow those standards.
It can't be, because the people who will be implementing these standards are not in support of this regulation. Our scientists that we pay, who we entrust to defend and protect Alabamians at the A&M and the Department of Health, are not in favor of this. So, I mean, how are we weighing in something when our own scientists, the very best minds Alabama has to offer, are not supportive of this?
I would submit that this bill protects the people of Alabama. It provides the people of Alabama with confidence, consistency, and the ability to trust their government agency with respect to ADEM and the application of EPA and the federal government.
But again, I think one of our colleagues had to really the important thing to talk about: floors versus ceilings, right? Here in Alabama, you know, I'm not an Alabama fan. I know there are lots here in the room. The ceiling is much higher in Alabama than, say, Kansas for football. Would you say that?
I would agree.
So
yes.
we believe in ceilings in Alabama, not floors, right? So right now, we're saying that Alabama cannot exceed the national standards. And I just don't understand that, because we pursue excellence beyond the national standards all the time. So why are we so afraid now? And I'm from a farming family, one of the largest and oldest black-owned family farms in Alabama. My great-great-grandfather left slavery, bought 40 acres, and started that farm there. So we are very protective of the natural environment that God has given us and bestowed upon us. And that, you know, that's scriptural to me.
And so am I, even after an hour and a half.
You simply cannot be if you haven't given up on this in an hour and a half, right? because I mean, you're hanging in there, and I appreciate it. But why in the world would we lessen what we expect of ourselves, and why would we want things to be a little bit better? And somebody mentioned drinking water. The drinking water standards are so high in this state because of one system, the Birmingham Water Works Board, which was stolen by this body last year and transferred, is now having all kind of trouble that we'll revisit at the time to be a more appropriate time. But it's because that board exceeded national standards for the last 40 or 50 years. We protected Lake Purdy. We protected all those water sites.
And
water
this bill
systems well beyond,
allows for primacy.
well
and
beyond
those
the
things
state
can-
standards, well beyond the national standards. That's why the water in Birmingham and the surrounding cities that we built with the Waterworks Board, we did that because we exceeded the state standards. We exceeded the national standards for water over and over again. And now someone cited the performance of the water here in Alabama is based upon us exceeding those standards, not succumbing to much lower standards.
And this bill allows for primacy, which directly relates to that, and those would not change.
Well, I hope that the water that you're drinking right there does not meet those lower standards that you have right now.
I haven't let anybody take my water bottle so they can put something in it. So.
I've enjoyed my time with you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh.
You got 4 seconds. Ladies' time is up. Question for the body is passage of SB 71. Clerk will unlock machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 68 ayes, 34 nays. SB 71 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to announce the Rules Committee is going to meet right now in room 617. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, House Bill number 300 with substitute by Representative Holt Jones relating to health.
While she's making her way up here, we got some guests in the gallery I'd like to introduce from Chilton County Commission. Alan Williams, Sylvia Singleton, and Mackenzie Kleckler. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for being with us. The guest of Representative Smith and Betho. Representative, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could first take a moment of personal privilege and thank the members of this body for everyone's texts, calls, and cards, flowers, and prayers this past October when I received my breast cancer diagnosis. I just want to tell everyone that every single communication was greatly appreciated and that prayer works. Due to the talents of our medical providers, I am proud to report that I have been cancer-free since last December. So thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I am honored to have been asked to present House Bill 300. It is an expanded insurance coverage for breast cancer screening and diagnostic imaging by requiring that health benefit plans cover these services without charging deductibles, copays, or coinsurance to the insured themselves. So if we have no questions regarding that, we'll ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ringo, Representative McCampbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to be able to stand up here in support of this bill. And the reason I'm glad to be up here and support it is because I've known and have had some people that have gone through this process. You know, to have a catastrophic health issue and then to receive the accompanying bills that are going to come after that, it's real, it can be real taxing on a person's life. And when, as I read this bill, when I look at it and think about, you go in for your first, you know, my wife has a mammogram annually. Mm-hmm. And she goes in for that mammogram. But one of the things that I learned, and I'm just, you know, talking from what I've learned by being with her as she's gone through. My wife has what is called dense breasts. Mm-hmm. And so things apparently get hidden. And oftentimes, there has been one of the times that we did it, they followed up with a second mammogram being ordered. Normally, they'll just do what is called an ultrasound. Now, see, I don't know anything about all this stuff, so don't y'all look at me like I know what I'm talking about, but I know.
You're doing good, AJ. Keep going.
I know what she said,
right.
And she did her best to explain it to me. Mm-hmm. But that, I'm not sure whether we had to pay a deductible on that second mammogram or not. But I understand there are some companies that will not cover that second mammogram. And I think when it's a part of determining the health of a person, I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we don't further cause issues with people by, having this additional cost over their head. Because a lot of people will make choices that they are not going to have it simply because they can't afford to pay that additional cost. So I think this is a good public protection bill that, and I really appreciate you bringing it, and I'm glad to know that you have benefited from this. So thank you very much,
Ken.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Shelby, Representative Holsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Representative Holt Jones, I'm super thankful to the good Lord for your complete healing, so I applaud him for that. And you and I talked about this bill early on, something that it was extremely important to several of my constituents, and you picked it up and ran with it immediately. And all I wanted to do was say thank you on behalf of my constituents, but also all women in the state of Alabama. So thank you, darling.
Thank you, all men and women.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With it, that is, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to rise and reference that bill. I lost my wife to breast cancer, so I was not fortunate. And because, even though she did mammogram, she had a different type, what we said, where the mass doesn't occur. And I think one of the things that we have to understand when we are dealing with this diagnosis and going through those stages, which we ended up having a tissue exam made before we determined what it was, people are under so much stress that, and if we can catch it earlier, it deals with the cause and the effect for the spreads and stuff like that. So we got a better chances of cure versus if we don't. And so if we can take this burden, and as you said, as Representative Campbell talked about, everybody's not the same, the diagnosis is different, but if we can make sure that extra $100 or whatever that they would do a copay, but somebody got to worry about it. I got to come up with that and go ahead and get the test done, because most of the time, I had a few friends who talk about, all of a sudden you're dealing with something, they get the report, we need you to come back in. So not only you got one, but you got the second one. And, of course, at that point in time, it's the big word,
Right.
So I just applaud you for, one, your battle, secondly, your victory of the battle, but three, the willing to carry this bill, because it has a lot of impact. And then the other thing for me, that's what my daughter died, my wife died with the type, even though we have the genetic stream and stuff like that, I have a daughter who's at the age of 27 that she still must go through and participate to stay aware, and try to be preventive of that. She just had a friend who just went through a double mastectomy because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, young lady, early 30s. So it is one of those things that are real. So if we can do anything to help make this burden lighter on our Alabama families, I appreciate it, and thank you for carrying this bill.
Thank you, and so sorry about the loss of your wife.
Chair thanks the gentleman. What's for the body is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. (101 ayes, 0 nays). The BIR has been adopted. Representative Holt Jones.
Mr. Speaker, I have a sub.
You care to explain your sub, please?
Yes, sir. It is a technical amendment that also changes the effective date from October 1 to January 1 of 2007 to accommodate one of our newer health insurance plans that we're happy to have in the state of Alabama.
Yes, ma'am. You've heard the lady's explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. Under 2 ayes, 0 nays. The substitute has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment 2, House Bill number 300 by Representative Holt Jones.
Representative Holt Jones, you care to explain your amendment, please?
The amendment removes the words National Comprehensive Cancer Network guidelines. Guidelines are constantly changing, and it was the work of the entire team to just strictly leave the wording necessary and appropriate to give the discretion of the physician.
You heard the lady's explanation to the floor amendment. Clerk will unlock machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The floor amendment has been adopted.
Ask for final passage of HB 300 as substituted and amended.
That is the question. Is passage of HB 300 as substituted and amendment? Clerk will unlock machine. The members shall vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 99 ayes, 0 nays. HB 300 as substituted and amended has passed. Congratulations, Francis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all the men and women in the state of Alabama, we appreciate it. Can we open it up for co-sponsors, please?
The request opened up for co-sponsor. Mr. Clerk, let's do that, please. Clerk will lock the machine, record the co-sponsors. 86 co-sponsors. Good
Thank
job.
you very much, body. Appreciate it.
Clerk, call next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 19 with substitute by Senator Livingston relating to insurance.
Representative Gray, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. SB 19, up under, the existing health care plans, annual screening for men over 40 for early detection for prostate is already required. What this bill would do would eliminate the cost sharing for prostate screening. I'll ask for the BR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you for turning the mic on.
That wasn't me. Now that's Holly. I also want you to know that.
I just want to thank you for the recognition and thank you, my colleague, for bringing this bill, because prostate cancer and insurance, like the last bill that was here, is rampant. And we have a lot of young men who are afraid to even think about it because of the cost. Anything that we can do to help our young people, our seniors even, to make their health care a little more efficient and effective, we ought to applaud that. And I want to applaud your effort and desires, your bill, even though on the Senate Bill 19, your House bill was the same bill, and we appreciate you. I had a young friend of mine, 39 years of age, died of prostate cancer. And they thought he was too young, but cancer don't have an age. And we need to think about what we do each and every day, and environmental had a lot to do with that. The bill that we passed earlier, we wanted to talk about research and all that, but thank you so much for bringing this bill. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machines and record the votes. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Representative Gray.
I have a committee sub.
Here to explain your sub, please.
Yeah, just like the previous bill, it just changed the effective date from October to January.
Yeah, you heard the gentleman's explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 99 ayes, 0 nays. Committee sub has been adopted. Representative Gray.
I asked for final passage, but I think Representative Gavan has an amendment.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in concert with Senator Livingston. There have been two stalwarts in this area of prostate cancer awareness here in the state of Alabama. Every now and then we get a chance to do some things together, Republicans and Democrats, red and blues. And so with this being said, we have agreed on an amendment to name this bill after two great leaders here. One is in the name of David McElhaney, David McElhaney, who has a diverse background, over 30 years in business here. He's held positions including general manager and vice president, operations, distribution, and health. He has extensive experience in new market development, sales, and in training. And he is also one of those individuals who was instrumental in Senator Livingston bringing the bill. The other is a Edwin R. Murrow recipient. He is a journalist, a columnist, an award-winning journalist who has written books with Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and others. And he has become a pioneer or a fighter in this battle of prostate cancer awareness. And he is none other, and he is also here today, Mr. Speaker, and he is none other than AL.com journalist Roy S. Johnson. And so, with that, I'm not sure where he went, but with that being said, he's very well respected in the Birmingham area. So we have those two gentlemen. And with that being said, I offer the amendment to rename this bill after David McElhaney and Roy S. Johnson. And starting on line 28, page 1, this act shall be known and may be cited as the David McElhaney and Roy S. Johnson Prostate Cancer Prevention Act, Section 2, and of course, Section 27-58-1 and 27-58-4. We're going to replace line 89 on page 4 with the following. This act shall become effective, and that's the date, the effective date of the October.
Friendly amendment, Mr. President.
You've heard the explanation of the amendment. Sponsor seats at a friendly amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and we'll vote.
Oh.
Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 95 ayes, 0 nays. The amendment has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, would you, Mr. Journalist just walked in. Could we acknowledge him, Roy Johnson? He's one of the.
I'm sorry.
Speak
up just a little bit for
One
me.
of the individuals that this bill is, well, hopefully will be named after has just walked back in. So if we could recognize him, Roy Johnson with AL.com.
Sure, absolutely.
Roy.
AL.com, yeah.
And I would like to thank Senator Marika Coleman and, of course, Senator Livingston. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sure, thanks, lady. Representative.
Final passage.
That is questions, final passage. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 98 ayes, 0 nays. SB 19 as amended has passed.
Thank the body.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill number 296 with substitute by Representative Brown relating to consumer protection.
Chairman Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is House Bill 296. It deals with rental platforms. Basically, if you are a rental platform, Airbnb, VRBO, and you make it you make a claim on your website that you will cover renters. I mean, people that have rental property, that you have to make that good by having a policy registered with the Department of Insurance. This exempts actually companies that have locations in Alabama, so it strictly deals with large platforms on the internet. So, Mr. Speaker, I call for the BR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Trying to make sure I'm clear on what you say you're
I didn't do a
doing.
good job explaining.
Yeah, well, maybe I wasn't paying good attention.
No, you were.
So tell me exactly what you're attempting
Sure.
to do. You mentioned local versus out-of-towners.
Right. So what this does is if you have an online platform, let's say you go on and you want to rent a, place on the beach, let's say.
So when you mention online platform, you're
short-term
talking like
rental.
like
Yeah.
BRB,
And Airbnb. that sort of
Airbnb,
thing.
okay, all
And
right.
so if they offer it's a service agreement. So if you own a piece of property and you put it into their pool of rental properties, that if they make the claim to you that it's warranted, basically if some damage happens to let's say somebody rents your property through those two platforms and they tear it up, then they make the guarantee that they will make you whole and repair those damages. So this just says that they have to have a service agreement because the Department of Insurance actually regulates warranty, services agreements, and insurance. So they have to have that registered with the Department of Insurance.
Okay.
So that it's just a way to protect property owners and consumers.
So it's not the service agreement so much with the individual, because when they sign
No.
the contract, that's about, but
It's with the property
insurance.
owner. It's with the property owners themselves. So if you own that's in the pool, then they're guarantee you that if you have damage, that they will repair that damage. And this just says that they have to have something registered with the Department of Insurance.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 96 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for adoption of the committee sub.
Here to explain your sub for us, please.
Yes, sir. All we did in this is if you have a rental business in the state of Alabama that actually has a brick and mortar location in the state of Alabama, you're exempted from this requirement. It's just aimed at the larger companies that have large online platforms.
You heard the gentleman's explanation. Question for the body is adoption of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. The substitute has been adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Explain that last part on the sub.
Sure. So what we did is the rental companies that actually operate in Alabama, they're exempted from this provision of having to have a policy registered with the Department of Insurance.
Okay,
So they can continue to do business as they've always done.
Okay, so they are exempt.
They are exempt.
Okay, thank you.
100%. Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 296. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 97 ayes, 1 nay. HB 297 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you,
Thank you,
members.
gentlemen. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile. Chairman Brown.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I make a motion that we adjourn
When?
now.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. I got one more. Give me one more. Let's give Representative Kill a moment of personal privilege first.
Mr. Speaker, I move we suspend the rules to consider a timely resolution.
Clerk, see the resolution.
Explain it.
Honoring Tharptown Baptist Church for its many years of faithful service to the Tharptown community in Franklin County, Alabama.
Mr. Speaker, I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chairman Brown, let's try this one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand adjourned.
When we're coming back.
9:30? Thursday at 9:30.
Thursday at 9:30. All right. Thanks, sir. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll keep going. Clerk, we are adjourned.